clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
This is Mark Dolan Tonight, which starts at the earlier time of 8 p.m. every Friday and Saturday night, right through until 11. In just a moment, my clips of the week, highlights from GB News over the last 7 days, including plenty of on-air mistakes and hilarity. At 9 o'clock in my Big Opinion monologue, is Keir Starmer really the answer to Britain's problems? My reaction to his first major speech of the year, and I'm not pulling my punches. My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. You won't believe her story. She tells it after 10 in The Big Question. As Santander recruit people who got a third at university, that's right, a third, do qualifications still matter? We'll discuss that with self-made millionaire Charlie Mullins. This hour, are Sunak and Starmer two sides of the same coin? We'll be dissecting that with the former business secretary and, of course, ex-Lib Dem leader Vince Cable. Plus, one of the most respected journalists in the country, the First Lady of Fleet Street, Eve Pollard, is here live in the studio to discuss whether the press are too hard on Prince Harry. And 80s pop icon Carol Decker joins me later this hour to get through the other stories of the day. Lots to get through. It's Friday night, so I want you to be stimulated, informed and entertained. We don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Lots to get through, including those unmissable and now legendary clips of the week. First, someone that never makes on-air mistakes, Bethany Elsey.
Mark, thank you. No pressure. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Ambulance workers are planning another strike this month in their ongoing dispute over pay. More than 2,600 members of the Unite Union will walk out on Monday the 23rd across England and Wales. A separate ambulance strike by the GMB and Unison unions is planned for next Wednesday. The Prime Minister says he wants to have a grown-up conversation on how to bring an end to the ongoing industrial action within the public sector. The Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, will meet with health unions on Monday. He hopes there can be some progress.
The pay review body will be looking at the pressure of cost of living, the pressure on inflation, the scope for us to see how we make that more affordable by working together on issues of productivity, on issues of efficiency. I wrote to Pat about that last night. I hope she engages constructively on that. It's important we work together to ensure that the evidence that goes to the independent pay review body for this coming year reflects the pressure that the NHS is on, but also what is affordable to the wider economy.
Further revelations have emerged from Prince Harry's memoir Spare, which is out next week. It includes how he and his brother, the now Prince of Wales, were talked out of reopening the investigation into the death of their mother, Diana, by what he calls the powers that be. The Duke of Sussex has also angered a senior leader of the Taliban after admitting to killing 25 militants in Afghanistan and calling them chess pieces that needed taken out. A postman who killed his girlfriend's 18-month-old son has been jailed for 9 years. 24-year-old Christian Scott Coombe killed Andrew Corker in 2019. The child's mother, Tamika Beaton, was also found guilty of child cruelty by neglecting to protect her son and given a 12-month sentence. And US President Joe Biden is currently marking the second anniversary of the deadly attack on the US Capitol in a ceremony at the White House. He's set to award presidential medals to 12 officials and police officers for resisting the crowds. A mob of Donald Trump supporters attempted to storm the building in a failed bid to block Congress from certifying the 2020 election. We'll bring you more on that as we get it. And the world of football has been remembering former Chelsea striker and manager Gianluca Vialli, who has died at the age of 58. Vialli earned 59 caps for Italy and won the Champions League with Juventus before joining Chelsea in 1996. The Italian Football Federation said his death has left an unfillable void, and Chelsea co-owners have promised his legacy would forever be written at the club. Vialli had pancreatic cancer. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
My thanks to Bethany Elsie, who returns in an hour's time. She's with us all evening, as am I. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight, the first one of the year. We kick off, as always, on a Friday with the now legendary clips of the week, my highlights from 7 days of GB News, the good, the bad and the ugly. Also this hour, are Sunak and Starmer two sides of the same coin? We'll be dissecting what the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition had to say this week. We'll be speaking to legendary politician Vince Cable. Plus, the First Lady of Fleet Street, Eve Pollard, is here live in the studio to discuss whether the press are too hard on Prince Harry. And pop icon Carol Decker joins me later this hour with more big stories from the week. At 9 o'clock in my Big Opinion monologue, is Keir Starmer really the answer to Britain's problems? My reaction to his first major speech of the year, and I'm not pulling my punches. My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her incredible story after 10. In the big question, as Santander hire people who got a third at university, do qualifications still matter? What's the point in working hard at university if all you need is a third to sell mortgages? We'll discuss that with self-made millionaire Charlie Mullins. So it is Friday night and all the trains are cancelled, so you're stuck indoors. Grab something cold and fizzy from the fridge or fire up the kettle and let's have a brilliant night in. And what better way to start than my GB News clips of the week? We start clips of the week with the hugely talented Dawn Neeson, former national newspaper editor, of course, but turning her hand beautifully to TV presentation as a stand-in for the excellent Bev Turner. Well, you know what they say about the cleverest people. They have the messiest desks. Take a look.
Let's have a look at some of the emails that you have sent in. Right, OK, I'm going to absolutely read them out if I can find where I put them down, which are here somewhere. OK. Yes, where are they? OK. OK, right, OK, I'll read them out after the break on the grounds that I've got so much paperwork on my desk, I can't find them.
Oh, bloody hell, where's my notes? Where's the next intro? I can't believe it. I've got Mark Meets in a minute. Bloody hell! Help! Oh, dear, oh, Lord. Love to have a cleaner, but we're a start-up. We just haven't got the budget. There you go. We've barely got a director, I'm not going to lie. Apologies, Sebastian. It's very rare that you'll find Dawn Neeson speechless, but that was one of those occasions. Now, on the channel, our contributors, the guests we invite on, are not your usual talking heads. They are busy, high-profile professionals like this top doctor, an excellent man, a very wise man, Dr. David Lloyd, in conversation with the brilliant Stephen Dixon.
So we do have a remarkably efficient health service, and we should be looking to improve it. And by doing that, we'll make the UK more competitive.
Oh, well, that's not an urgent call coming through for you.
Blimey, who'd have him as their GP? Excuse me, doctor, I can barely breathe. I think I'm having a heart attack. You can't talk because you're on GB News? You got Jeremy Vine in an hour? Now, the Attention to Detail Award goes to the head of lifestyle economics at the IEA think tank, Christopher Snowdon. Take a listen as he regales my friend Patrick Christie's with his deep analysis of Keir Starmer's keynote speech.
Christopher Snowden, now head of lifestyle economics at the IEA. What did Keir Starmer actually say of substance today?
I don't know. I didn't see a speech.
Good. OK. All right, fair enough.
I want my money back. Don't worry, Christopher. I sat through the speech and you dodged a bullet big time. Over to late-night entertainment show headliners. Your first look, of course, at tomorrow's papers. And normally comedians are quite depressed people that pretend to be jolly. But in the case of the comedian Kerry Marks, well, they're just a bit weird.
There's a reason why doctors have been wearing masks during surgery for a long time. There's a reason why
how to handle
there's a reason why mothers have for centuries been saying, well, you know, when you cough, cover your mouth. When you cough, sneeze or fart. That was just my mum who didn't really understand what farts were.
No.
Well, I'm very happy to pop over to Kerry Marks' mum's house and educate her on the science of farts. I'll have some lentils and baked beans before I go. Staying on headliners and staying with the human body, let me reiterate, these comedians are just plain weird. This time, bonkers American Louis Schaefer.
I brought you a present. I brought you a present.
A Christmas present?
Yeah.
You're a few days late, Louis. This is... I don't even know what this is. Can you explain this, Louis?
It's a uric acid blood glucose tester. It's the test.
Of course it is.
For potential gout.
You are utterly demented.
That thing costs £45. That's a good item.
Don't worry, Andrew. Just be grateful he didn't give you an iron lung. Try getting that home on the bus. Now, this will warm the cockles of your heart. Christmas feels like a distant memory, but our brilliant reporting teams are not just limited to finding the big story. They will also help you see in the Christmas season in style. Patrick and Ellie were joined by the next Michael Bublé, GB News East Midlands reporter Will Hollis.
You said you'd belt out a little bit of a song for us. Here he is. Go on,
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Beautiful work. Our very own and awesome Nana Akua is the perfect judge of how to deliver a news story based upon whether it's a serious or fun story. That is her amazing judgment. She's a great journalist. What are you going to do? Unfortunately, our team in the music department did not get the memo following the sad death of the last Pope. I'm no expert, but I don't think dance music was called for here.
Here's what's coming up today. Now, Pope Benedict XVI has died at the age of 95. The Vatican has announced he was the first Pope to stand down in centuries in 2013 due to health problems.
Kind of works, doesn't it? Sebastian, cue the music. Inflation's through the roof, man. Everyone's on strike. And there's a shocking cost of living crisis. National debt's over $2 trillion. Boom! The planet's on fire. And James Blunt's got a new album coming out. Yo! There you go. I feel much better now. Now listen, folks, we've got to crack on with this because I was back on the national airwaves after Christmas on Monday. Great to be back. I've missed you hugely. And I got more than I bargained for with TV legend Kim Woodburn and her jewellery. Oh, listen, you spoil me. I'm loving your pearl necklace. I'm wondering if I gave it to you.
Well, look, you are a married man, a married woman. Please, we know we exchanged this when we were having passionate sex, but shut up, say nothing. You dropped me right in it now.
One of those occasions when I do hope Mrs. Dolan was not watching the show and washing her hair instead. Now, this week I had the privilege of sitting in for the great Dan Wootton, Britain's best journalist. And I'm pleased to say that I upheld the show's strong principles of no spin, no bias, and no censorship. Exhibit A. Not surprising, therefore, that a copy of his forthcoming book, which promises to be longer and more tedious than War and Peace, and likely packed with just as much fiction, should mysteriously land at the Meghan and Harry supporting Guardian newspaper, a rag hardly known for its showbiz exclusives. There you go, a textbook example of political balance. Ofcom, eat your heart out. Now, I'm a big fan of freedom fighter, campaigner, chef and TV presenter Tonya Buxton, who sat in for Mark Stein this week. And here giving us a rare example of a presenter breaking the news of someone's death before they've died. Now, that's what I call an exclusive.
I'm joined now by the former Southampton and England footballer, Matt Le Tissier. Hello, Matt. You know, you're a football god yourself. How will the world be... How will the football world be now feeling now Le Tissier's not around anymore?
I'm absolutely devastated. I saw Matt Le Tissier about 10 minutes ago. We had a pint before I went on air. I've got to say, given that Matt Le Tissier is dead, he seems to be doing pretty well on it. The guy looks fantastic. I guess that's what happens when you look after yourself. He'll probably give a eulogy at his own funeral. I'm pleased to say that Matt Le Tissier is here in spirit and in the flesh. And those are your clips of the week. After the break, following two big speeches this week from both Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, I'll be asking legendary politician Vince Cable if Sunak and Starmer are two sides of the same coin. Have they rendered millions of people politically homeless? We'll discuss that, by the way, later in the hour. Pop superstar Carol Decker and one of the most respected journalists in the country, Eve Pollard, on Prince Harry. Lots to get through. See you in 3.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you.
GB News will always stay honest,
balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We're going to crack on with the show very shortly, lots to get through, but Dawn Neeson was here earlier in the week. She sat in for Bev Turner and she's made such a mess of the desk. You've got no idea. I've got to tell you, it's an absolute bloody disaster. You know, a good journalist, but what a chaotic mind. If you enjoyed Clips of the Week and you'd like to contribute, then why don't you drop me a line anytime that you watch or hear something that amuses you or shocks you on GB News. And if you think it's worthy of my satirical eye, then drop me a line, mark@gbnews.uk, and just title your email Clips of the Week. But anything you see or hear, let me know, and it will feature on next week's instalment. Welcome back to the show. A very busy 3 hours, as I say. Now, this week saw both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition give keynote speeches setting out their respective plans for power. But can you get a cigarette paper between these two men? Are Sunak and Starmer now two sides of the same coin, rendering millions politically homeless? That's certainly the flavour of the emails I've received this week. Many of you don't think much of either of them. Let's get the view of one of the most respected and experienced politicians in the country, former business secretary under the coalition government, former leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Vince Cable. Sir Vince, welcome to the programme and thank you for your valuable time. Shall we start with Sunak? What did you make, Sir Vince, of his 5-point plan?
Well, it was blander than bland. I mean, if you make a pledge that the sun's going to rise tomorrow, you're not likely to be wrong, are you? But he's a technocrat and probably quite good at being a technocrat, doesn't want to get involved in controversy. And neither he nor Keir Starmer are wanting to confront the issue of the day, which is that if we're going to get better public services and better paid nurses, then somebody's going to have to pay for it, and that's going to mean higher taxes. And neither of the two of them want to raise the issue. Sunak, because he's afraid he'll be torn apart by his backbenchers. Starmer's afraid of that question because people will then say, well, which taxes are you going to raise up? And that writes the next Tory pamphlet. So they're both avoiding the key issue of the day, which is how we preserve and improve our very battered public services, particularly the NHS, and which taxes are going to have to rise to pay for it.
Although, Sir Vince, is there really any further capacity for an increase in taxes, given the impact it will have on economic growth? You were rather smart during the 2010 coalition government when you introduced austerity, which I think has been mischaracterised. It was rather living within our means. Oughtn't that to be the flavour of policy going forward?
Well, we have to live within our means, and that's why if we want to improve public services, taxation is going to have to rise to pay for it. Now, you're right that some taxes have a very bad effect on growth, and we certainly don't want to be increasing taxes on working people, which is one of the reasons why in the coalition we constantly raise the allowances at which people pay income tax. But there are other forms of taxation that probably wouldn't have that effect on property. The big tax issue that's looming up in the next few months is fuel duty, and if the government believes what it says about zero carbon, then that's obviously a candidate. Relief on pensions, tax relief, that's the kind of thing that will have to be revisited. Not all of these taxes have a negative effect on growth, though some of them do.
However, Sir Vince, isn't your response to Keir Starmer's, Rishi Sunak, there you go, that's the Freudian slip, to Rishi Sunak's 5-point plan a little churlish, given the fact that there's nothing on that list that most voters won't welcome? Boost the economy, reduce debt, stop the boats, tackle inflation and do something about those NHS waiting lists. I mean, as a shopping list goes, it's a belter.
I wouldn't say it's a belter. I mean, most of them are perfectly sensible. I'm not sure that the top priority in the NHS at the moment is reducing waiting lists. It's much more fundamental and more urgent. But yes, I mean, if he actually delivered on those, I'm sure it would be helpful. I mean, I'm a bit worried about one or two of his pledges. I mean, this pledge to halve inflation, of course, it's largely beyond his control. And one of the things that could go horribly wrong is, of course, that the Chinese economy is now recovering fast after the lifting of the COVID restrictions. The Chinese probably account for much of the growth in the world economy in the next year or so. They're going to push up world inflation, oil prices, gas prices, food prices. This could be a kind of unexpected turn that could throw some of these forecasts out very badly.
Indeed so. Let's get to Keir Starmer now. And he spoke a day after, 24 hours after Rishi Sunak. What was your appraisal of his performance? Because many of my viewers feel it was just similar to Rishi Sunak's speech, full of platitudes.
Well, it was. And actually, I rather admire the way he's going about his job. A lot of people on the left are saying you've got to be much more radical, whatever that means, going back to Corbynite stuff. But I think he's playing safe. He realises that if we do get a Labour government, we probably will, in some form, is they're not going to be able to do very much about the economy. They've inherited these high levels of debt, big deficits, the ability to have experiments with fiscal policy was rather discredited by mistrust. I mean, he's not going to be able to do very much. Increasing growth rates is something that happens over a long period of time. So he's beginning to focus on things that really don't have much to do with the economy, like changing the constitution, getting rid of the House of Lords, long overdue, and devolving a lot more power to local government. The problem about the latter is that it clearly is necessary, but it requires a certain amount of courage. I read Gordon Brown's long report on improving the governance of Britain, and there was virtually nothing said about giving local communities power to raise revenue, do things of an economic kind. And I think Starmer is offering is pleasant enough, but very bland. And his focus is on avoiding making mistakes of the Neil Kinnock variety.
What would you say to many of my viewers, Sir Vince, who feel politically homeless and perceive Starmer and Sunak to be two sides of the same coin?
Well, of course, there are other options, and you no doubt have some in mind. Of course, my party, the Liberal Democrats, is another option. If you want to pursue a set of policies that's greener, that's probably going to be a bit more courageous about raising issues around Europe, which neither Sunak nor Starmer wished to touch with a barge pole for a fear of offending a significant part of the public. So, yeah, there are other options, and I would argue there are options in the middle, not on the extreme.
Don't you think that the Lib Dems have shifted too far to the left since you were leader and therefore will alienate many potential Conservative voters?
I don't think so. I don't see any evidence of that. I mean, most of the seats where we're doing very well in local government are in what we call Conservative-facing areas. Most of our target seats are in that kind of constituency. And we've demonstrated in these recent by-elections that a lot of Conservative voters find it an attractive alternative when they're disillusioned with the government. So I'm not worried on those scores.
Fascinating. How do you see things playing out in a couple of years, Sir Vince? Because, of course, Keir Starmer has 2 years to set out his stall as a potential leader, but that's 2 years of scrutiny as well, isn't it? And Sunak's got 2 years to prove he's up to the job.
Yes, I think he himself tells his own party that they must be very careful to avoid complacency. They do have a massive lead. It's about 20%. It's bigger than they enjoyed in the Parliament leading up to 1997. So, they can afford a certain amount of slippage. I think the risk for them is that they do well but not quite well enough, and they find themselves in a parliament where they're dependent either on my party or the nationalists, and they don't have the scope to do a lot of the things they want to do. Starmer's strategy is clearly to play safe, to appoint sort of competent technocrats in key jobs. The danger, I suspect, is that by playing safe, he's not exciting people. We're going to get a relatively low turnout. I mean, that's the danger he runs.
Sir Vince, we always love having you on the show. I look forward to many on-air encounters in 2023, and Happy New Year to you and yours. Sir Vince Cable, the former leader of the Liberal Democrats. What's your opinion? Mark at gbnews.uk. Are Sunak and Starmer two sides of the same coin? Do you feel politically homeless? Let me know. Keir Starmer is the topic of my big opinion monologue, my first on-air reaction to his speech, and I'm not pulling my punches. After the break, we'll turn our attention to that explosive book by Prince Harry and one of the country's most respected and experienced journalists. Eve Pollard will be answering a simple question. Are the press too hard on Prince Harry? See you in 3.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Jane Blasio. She was taken and trafficked at birth. She gives her incredible story after 10. And in my big opinion monologue at 9, my verdict on whether Keir Starmer is the answer to Britain's problems. You won't want to miss it. So lots to get through. But let me tell you that a very valued and loved member of the team is moving on, going on to bigger and better things. Our brilliant producer, Joe Scotting, has been with us for a long, long time. He's charming, he's clever, he's very funny, a very creative chap. He will be missed hugely. And now I look forward to being a good friend of his, and I will miss him hugely as a colleague. Good luck, Joe, and do stay in touch. Plus, I'm a lot taller than he is, you might have noticed that. By the way, I think we'd make a great couple. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get more reaction now to the fallout from Prince Harry's forthcoming tell-all memoir in the company of one of the most respected and experienced journalists in the country. I'm genuinely privileged to welcome former Sunday Mirror editor and quite literally the First Lady of Fleet Street, no less, Eve Pollard. Hi, Eve.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. It's great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And this is Happy New Year for Fleet Street. Wouldn't you love to be a national newspaper editor right now?
Well, I think they're all looking for a certain older lady who had sex with Prince Harry. She'll be found. I mean, whoever she is, I hope she's hiding somewhere because Fleet Street will be out there looking.
That's right. She'll be found by Sunday, won't she? And
I would think so.
The alleged cougar that he had romanced in the, I think, a field behind a pub, to whom he lost...
Too much information.
To TMI. Exactly right. I mean, where do we start? Could we start with, I think, what is the most egregious revelation from the book, which is that he boasts of having killed 25 Taliban, which places a target not just on his back, but on the back of every member of his family.
Absolutely. And probably some of the people he was out there with. It seems to me that we've been examining his motives. We have been examining him. We see he's a very, very unhappy person who's had a very, very difficult life in some ways and a very easy life in other ways. But now I think we have to question his wisdom and whether we're very lucky that he was the spare and not the heir. Because to give out this information seems, A, egregious in every way. Whatever you think of the Taliban, of the Afghan that they were fighting, they are people. And they're not just people on a chessboard. And the fact that he describes them like that is inhuman. And why tell us this? Why tell the world this? And here's the man who complains that security was withdrawn. He'll spend his whole life having to double up on security because look at Salman Rushdie. He upset people years ago with Midnight's Children. And then only recently, somebody took a potshot on him. And luckily, he escaped with his life. This is going to be a risk for the rest of their lives.
And if anything, it's a propaganda opportunity for the Taliban.
Sure, and there are many, many reasons why I would disagree with every Afghani, but to talk about them as if they're just something to be shot at is appalling.
Too right, as you say, they've got families and they are human beings. What about the drugs? We hear, snorted cocaine and, I believe, smoked a spliff at Eton.
I would imagine that a lot of people at Eton are phoning up their sons and saying, darling, did you do this? And their sons are probably lying, as probably most sons are. I think that's sad. I think it's part of the way of the world now. Why tell us? Particularly, he's got 2 children. One day they'll grow up and they'll say, well, I can have a spliff, Dad. You did. Not the wisest thing to do.
Well, it's what you said earlier. It's TMI, too much information. He's talking about losing his virginity, snorting coke. And you just think of the dignity of our late, great Queen and what she would think if she was here to witness it. In fact, I saw on Twitter someone said, you know, we miss her hugely, but in some ways I'm glad she's been spared this.
But what is terrible is he's been working on this book for some time. It was tragic that she died last year, but she could have still been alive. She could have seen all this. Can you imagine how upset she would have been? How upset Prince Philip would have been? And quite rightly, how upset the rest of the royal family would be and must be feeling sad. And so much of this has got no backup at all. I mean, the idea that Fleet Street, the idea as an ex-editor of 2 newspapers, the idea that somebody would ring you up and give you a salacious story about Harry and Meghan. Newspapers don't work like that. Journalists don't work like that. They watch people, they have contacts, they follow people, they guess at things, they ask people, they put 2 and 2 together, and eventually, if they're lucky, they get a story. The idea people were ringing you up from Kensington Palace, I would have only dreamt of it as an editor and say, hey, I've got a hot story for you. It's nonsense.
Well, yes, and Harry and Meghan complained that the royal family and alleged that the royal family have been leaking stories to the press.
Yeah.
Well, how did a copy of this book miraculously arrive at the Guardian newspaper, do you think?
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? And also, the fact is, I was there at their wedding. There was palpable love in the air. People were thrilled that he'd chosen a girl like her, an American, a career woman, a woman who was a feminist. I mean, in some ways, we did lose somebody who could have been very useful. But I'm not sure Harry ever explained the difference between celebrity and royalty. And the truth is, in being a royal, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of dull work, a lot of work projecting things for charities, making sure things work, helping people. It's not glamorous. It's not life a la Montecito. And I don't know whether she ever understood that, but if she did, she should have pulled out much earlier. Or they should have pulled out with none of this, awfulness about jealousy, nastiness, a family broken, because it is a family that must feel very broken now.
And as you mentioned with the Taliban, they are human beings. They commit crimes en masse, but they're human beings nonetheless. And so is Harry and so is Meghan. And I worry for Harry's mental health. You touched on it earlier. I do feel that he's very angry, but I also think he's lost the plot. And I worry where this man is going.
Well, and also, he's now going to therapists. Therapists are supposed to make...
He should ask for his money back, shouldn't he?
Pardon? Well, he should ask for his money back. But, of course, that's the other thing. People talk about them. I mean, he talks about life, about being cut off from security. This was a man that had 20 million or so at the time. I mean, he should ask for his money back, but obviously nobody has made him or helped him. The old, friendly, lovely Harry has gone. We've now got an angry, tight, uptight man who I think is trying to protect his wife and almost sees his wife as his mother, as someone who needs protection. And you want to say a lot of the terrible things that happened to Diana, those photographs where she's holding a handbag over her face, is when she got rid of her Royal Protection Squad.
Correct. And, of course, I've had Ken Wharf, her former head of security, in the studio, and he has said on more than one occasion that if Diana had had the official security...
She'd be alive now.
She'd be with us now.
Correct.
And Harry's risking that all over again. What would your advice be to Charles and William? They've kept a dignified silence so far, but many of my viewers think they should fight back. What's your view?
My view is don't return the ball. Because if you do fight back... I mean, I'm not saying... I mean, the Queen put out that wonderful statement saying Harry and Meghan are much-loved members, but recollections do vary. And if they want to make that sort of statement, that's fine. Why would you meet Harry and Meghan, where everything they say will be written down afterwards? We'll have another 6-part Netflix series in a year's time.
More material.
And another book. And this is the other truth. And the other interesting story, it's a story buried in one of the papers, or one of the newspapers today, coming from America. As you know, they've started a small set of programmes about people who've given people freedom of speech. They started with Nelson Mandela. The viewing figure is very low. People loved and admired Nelson Mandela. The idea of comparing his cell on Robben Island, that he lived in for 27 years, to that wonderful house in California is nonsense. But, of course, I think slowly Meghan and Harry are realising, unless they have a royal in front of them, nobody's interested.
Yeah.
And if we keep having this very unhappy story, going back and going back, if they don't see the royal family, they will gradually become totally out of date. And then they will have to live their life on their own, doing service, which I'm waiting. I know they do the Invictus Games.
Sure.
I know he runs Centre Barley. But all you seem to see him doing in the Netflix video was having a wonderful time in that wonderfully large house. I want to see what sort of service they're going to provide.
You are a no-nonsense journalist with decades of experience. Let's call a spade a spade. Has Harry been groomed by Meghan? And would you agree with Paul Burrell, who told me on this network last night that he thinks they will divorce and Harry will come home?
I can't look into the future. And unlike Harry, I can't talk to people and think, Diana is talking to me, my mother's talking to me. I don't even want to blame Meghan. I don't know whether anybody ever explained to Meghan what being royal is like, the duties of a royal, your position in the family, the way you have to behave. I think if somebody had actually told her about going off to some northern town, seeing people in the pouring rain, coming back perhaps too late to put your children to bed, and doing it all several times again. Think of our royals.
For 50 years.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Of course they have privileges.
Has she got in his head? Grooming is a strong word. But has she turned Harry against his family and against the nation?
I think It's very hard to know. She does have form. She's turned against her own family. There is not that far away from her father, who's had a heart attack, whose only crime seems to be that he worked alongside journalists, probably knowing no better.
A bit naive.
And journalists probably did persuade him this would be good for his daughter. And he might die. And she hasn't been to see him, as far as we know. So she has form. She has bad relationships with her half-sister, her half-brother, as far as we know. So she does have form. I'm not sure you can blame all of this on her.
Well, I think I agree with you, and I mentioned that in a monologue last night, that in the end it's Harry that has allowed this to happen.
And that's why I question his wisdom.
His wisdom.
And he'll look back in 20 years' time, I hope he will, and say, I'm sorry.
Eve Pollard, the greatest joy to see you again. Please come back soon.
I'd love to.
Look forward to many appearances from Eve Pollard in 2023. Don't go away, lots more to come. I'll be joined by the music legend Carol Decker, going through some of the big stories of the day. And don't forget, my big opinion monologue, my first on-air reaction to Sir Keir Starmer's speech. That's at 9. Don't go anywhere.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Coming up in my big opinion monologue in just 10 minutes' time, is Keir Starmer really the answer to Britain's problems? My reaction to his first major speech of the year. And I'm laying out the truth. I'm dropping some truth bombs and I'm not pulling my punches. And my Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her story shortly. But first, let's tidy up some of the other big stories of the day with pop superstar Carol Decker. Hey, Carol.
Hey, Mark. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Amazing to see you.
How are
look,
you?
can we talk about one of the really big stories of the day? And it's the NHS. Huge problems. I really feel for patients. I feel for the nurses and doctors. I was in an NHS hospital earlier in the week. It is chaos. However, has the NHS brought this on itself?
I think the NHS is like an onion, isn't it, with lots and lots of layers and things to unpeel, and there seems to not be one solution to the problems. I also have experience of NHS recently. We have an older member of our family been admitted into hospital with bronchitis. Got diagnosed, fantastic, and then took 48 hours to discharge them when they were ready to go. 48 hours. So that meant that somebody else could have had that bed 48 hours prior, and there would have been an ambulance, queuing up to get somebody into that bed. So there's something fundamentally wrong with the way it's being run, and the NHS trusts, I believe, all run their own trusts, so it's not always down to the government. And I do feel that we, the sort of patients, the punter, the collateral damage, were told, oh, well, the government, they're not giving us the pay rises we needed, they're not listening to us, so you must, A, keep away if you're poorly, or just spend the rest of your life in a mask. So we seem to be stuck in the middle of all these arguments, which is frightening sometimes, I think.
Well, it is frightening. And listen, our friendship goes back, actually, the whole of the pandemic, because you were a regular on my old radio show just when lockdown started to happen. And you felt it wasn't right. You felt it didn't make sense. And you felt that a price would be paid. Well, here we are. We've got an economy shot to pieces, right? We've got a very damaged society. We've got kids whose opportunities have been curtailed, their life chances damaged. And we've got a health service, if we're honest, Carol, it's got great staff, but they did focus on one disease for over 2 years.
It did. It became the COVID health service. And I have nurses in my family, and I have friends who are doctors. My next door neighbour is a doctor. So I've got personal experience of the people on the front line, and they work really, really hard. But I think we're all aware now that almost 50% of the NHS staff are not clinical. So it needs a root and branch reform, and everyone's always scared to go there. They don't want to be the politician that criticised the NHS. It's like this golden cow. Well, it's not anymore. It was conceived a long, long time ago when the world was a different place with a different size population with different needs, and it really needs reform. And that is never, ever, ever on the shoulders of the frontline workers, ever.
Too right. Can we talk about the saviour of the world, Greta Thunberg, who has been awarded a brand new statue? Has she earned it? Is she the new Winston Churchill, the new Queen Victoria?
No. Oh, my God. I'd just love to throw it in the Bristol Harbour. I really, really would. Poor Greta, she's become Joan of Arc, hasn't she? It's probably not really her fault. But the story that you're alluding to is a university who have spent around about 24 grand on a life-size statue of her that looks really... Look, it's really generic. It doesn't even look like a... Has anybody seen that film, The Haunting? It's a really good film. It got remade in the late 90s, and there's all these scary children's statues in the conservatory.
Oh, I know
looks
it.
just
Yes.
like one of them.
It's exactly like that.
That's where my mind went. That's where.
It's like that, and it's also like The Shining with the little girls in the corridor.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, the students at the university, forgive me, you'll have to prompt me on the university name. They're upset because they say that this money could have been spent on better things, some of which I agree with. They're saying, they haven't spent as much on making the university facilities as eco-effective as they could be. But then they say things that really annoy me, like, and you should have taken beef off the menu in the university canteen and stuff. So I'd just like to drape beef all over Greta's statue. That would please me no end, really.
It's not a bad shout, is it? Listen, fair play to her. Carol, like you, she's you know, a woman of substance. She's a character.
Yeah.
She's got a dry wit. She's not bad at the occasional mic drop moment on Twitter. There was an excellent retort to that Andrew Tate chap, who's a sort of entrepreneur who is a little bit old-fashioned in his views towards women. And she came back with a good put down. So, you know, she's no dummy. But how do you feel about the fact that energy policy in the West is being shaped by a grumpy vegan Swedish teenager?
It's ludicrous. And of course, I don't agree with Greta Thunberg on a lot of stuff, but Andrew Tate, I think we can both agree on. I can't use the words to describe him on your show. But no, we need to always move forward with the world and make it the best that it can be for all of us. And God knows that is difficult, but we are being bullied out of the affordable and the available into the unaffordable and the not yet available, and it doesn't make sense. And even Elon Musk said in an article a couple of years ago, you know, years and years ago, he was going, electric vehicles are the way forward, and your carbon footprint, you're evil if you drive a petrol or a diesel car. Even he said in an article a couple of years ago, no, we can't move across to the one overnight. We've got to gradually move across to things, and I'm on board with that. But it's the zealots that go, you need to switch everything off and this will just be switched on. And that is not going to happen. And people are really feeling the pinch and the pain of this unrealistic policy. It's crazy.
Too right. Just a quick word on Brooklyn Beckham, David Beckham's son, who I believe is going to be the new Gordon Ramsay. Is that right?
Oh, he's going to be a bit sweary.
I hope he's not as sweary. Have you seen that video? He's been mocked online, hasn't he, for cooking with a piece of beef that butchers have estimated costs about £300. He cooked vegetables with a load of butter. I was looking for the sick bag.
Perfect. No, right, let me tell you, there's two aspects to this story. One is the kid's rich, leave him alone. You know, politics of envy, so what? There's always going to be people who sadly aren't doing as well as they could. The other thing is the cooking. So I am married to a classically trained chef of 30 years standing. He trained at the Ritz, and he does our carrots in butter and sugar. So that was a gorgeous glaze with chopped up parsley. So Brooklyn left out the sugar, which you need to add. The beef looked amazing. It was pink. That's exactly how it should be. His gravy was absolutely gorgeous. All roast potatoes should be baked in goose fat or duck fat or the beef dripping to make them nice and crispy. And his Yorkies looked fantastic. And I've got a little message for his mum. Fat doesn't make you fat, so she can enjoy and tuck into Brooklyn's Sunday lunch.
Happy New Year to the Queen of Pop. Carol, catch you really soon. Thank you for a fantastic chat. The brilliant Carol Decker.
Pleasure.
By the way, check out her dates online. An incredible singer, one of the best singers in the country. Lots to get through. But next up, it's my big opinion monologue. And I'm going to be dealing with Sir Keir Starmer. And I'm not pulling my Sir Keir punches. I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News.
Frank,
Fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer. I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
It's 9 o'clock on Mark Dolan tonight. In my big opinion monologue, is Keir Starmer really the answer to Britain's problems? My reaction to his first major speech of the year, and I'm not pulling my punches. My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her incredible story after 10. You won't believe it. In the big question, as Santander hire people who got a third at university, do qualifications still matter? And what's the point in working hard at university if you can be flogging mortgages with a third? We'll discuss that with self-made millionaire Charlie Mullins. In the news agenda, should the royal family sue Prince Harry? We'll be asking Michael Jackson's former lawyer. Plus, are three-way relationships the future? And is binge watching spoiling the television experience? Lots to get through, and I hope you'll be binge watching Mark Dolan tonight. I'll be dealing with Keir Starmer in just 2 minutes' time. But first, the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Ambulance workers are planning another strike this month in their ongoing dispute over pay. More than 2,600 members of Unite will walk out on Monday, the 23rd, across England and Wales. It's as new figures show record numbers of ambulances waited to hand over patients to A&E over Christmas. Over 40% of crews had to wait more than half an hour in the week to the new year. The Health Secretary Steve Barclay will meet with health unions on Monday. He hopes there can be some progress.
The pay review body will be looking at the pressure of cost of living, the pressure on inflation, the scope for us to see how we make that more affordable by working together on issues of productivity, on issues of efficiency. I wrote to Pat about that last night. I hope she engages constructively on that. It's important we work together to ensure that the evidence that goes to the independent pay review body for this coming year reflects the pressure that the NHS is on, but also what is affordable to the wider economy.
Further revelations have emerged from Prince Harry's memoir Spare, which is out next week. It includes how he and his brother, the now Prince of Wales, were talked out of reopening the investigation into the death of their mother, Diana, by what he calls the powers that be. The Duke of Sussex is also angered as senior leader of the Taliban after admitting to killing 25 militants in Afghanistan and calling them chess pieces that needed taken out. Buckingham Palace has not commented on his claims. A postman who killed his girlfriend's 18-month-old son has been jailed for 9 years. 24-year-old Christian Scott Coombe killed Andrew Corker in 2019. The child's mother, Tamika Beaton, was also found guilty of child cruelty by neglecting to protect her son. She was given a 12-month sentence. US President Joe Biden is marking the second anniversary of the deadly attack on the US Capitol in a ceremony at the White House. He's awarded presidential medals to 12 officials and police officers for resisting the crowds. A mob of Donald Trump's supporters attempted to storm the building in a failed bid to block Congress from certifying the 2020 election. And the world of football has been remembering former Chelsea striker and manager Gianluca Vialli, who's died at the age of 58. Vialli earned 59 caps for Italy and won the Champions League with Juventus before joining Chelsea in 1996. The Italian Football Federation said his death has left an unfillable void, and Chelsea co-owners promised his legacy would be forever written at the club. Vialli had pancreatic cancer. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
My thanks to Bethany Elsie, who returns in an hour's time. She's with me all evening. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. In my Big Opinion monologue, is Keir Starmer really the answer to Britain's problems? My reaction to his first major speech of the year. And I'm not pulling my punches. In the Big Question, as Santander recruit people who got a third at university, which is the lowest grade you can get, do qualifications still matter? My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Lazio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her incredible story after 10. In the news agenda, should the royal family sue Prince Harry? There's a bombshell suggestion. We'll be asking Michael Jackson's former lawyer, one of the most respected lawyers in America. Plus, are three-way relationships the future? And is binge watching spoiling the television experience? We've also got the papers at 10:30 sharp, and Greg's in charge tonight, so you can set your watch to it, folks, with full panel reaction. With me throughout the show, I've got to say, we've splashed the cash tonight. You get what you pay for. Top political commentator and social analyst Lizzie Zeta. The journalist, broadcaster and host of a very popular new podcast, Linda Jubilee. We'll get a plug-in for that shortly. And top criminal barrister, 90s TV icon and ex-Tory MP, which he tries to keep quiet, Jerry Hayes. Now, I want to hear from you throughout the show, mark at gbnews.uk. This programme has a golden rule. Sebastian, are you ready? We don't do boring. Not on my watch, not even in 2023. I just won't have it. So there you go, a very big 2 hours to come. Big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with this one. In his latest speech, when Sir Keir Starmer says he's taking back control, he's taking the piss. The cervix-free leader of the opposition has got a nerve invoking the language of Brexit, given that he tried to reverse it. As the shadow Brexit secretary, he campaigned for a second referendum, which, if granted, would, in my view, have provoked the greatest democratic and constitutional crisis in our history. Now, I don't want this to be personal, because Starmer is clearly a clever guy, and I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. But is he really the answer to Britain's problems? For example, is he really the answer to Britain's industrial strife? Can Labour stand up to the unions when they are in the pocket of them? Donations from the union barons are essential in keeping Labour financially solvent. Let me tell you, it's very hard to be tough with people upon whom their money you rely. We face an economic crisis with raging inflation. Are Labour the ones to tackle that, given the fact that not only would they likely yield to inflation-busting pay demands from the public sector, but their talk of investment is really just a snake oil term, which in reality just means borrowing and spending more money. And tell me how that will settle the nerves of international financiers and Rolex-wearing investors upon whose largesse we are now dependent. Are you really telling me that the financial markets would be more forgiving of a big-spending Labour government? Good luck with that. And Starmer said yesterday that he will reverse legislation that makes it harder for workers to go on strike. Look forward to strikes aplenty with him in number 10. And how will Starmer get the national debt down, given the fact that Labour enjoys massive support across the public sector, education, the health service and beyond? Do you think that these interest groups will be happy to accept austerity? Quite the opposite. If Keir Starmer gets into number 10, they will expect a tsunami of cash. And if not, I predict a civil war within the Labour Party, hardly the basis of a stable government. Don't take my word for it. Notwithstanding his largely well-received speech, powerful voices within his own party are already critical, and he's not even Prime Minister yet. The Labour MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, Diane Abbott, for example, has described the speech as full of empty promises and says new funding is needed to underpin his plans. Is Keir Starmer the right person to tackle poisonous, divisive woke culture, which is demonising British history and turning our public institutions into crucibles of mad, politically correct extremism, with everyone being forced to declare their pronouns and sign up to a narrative that says everything about this country is shameful? Can Sir Keir really push back on bonkers gender ideology, which rejects the idea that there are two biological sexes, given the fact that he himself can't even define what a woman is, even though he's married to one? And he's shown in the past a willingness to signal his virtue at the drop of a hat, whether it's taking the knee in an empty gesture, with met by scorn, of course. Many of his voters were horrified by that image, or wearing a mask in the company of Justin Trudeau. Now, this was at a time when the mask mandates had been dropped. Is Keir Starmer really the right person to tackle our other great challenge, the energy crisis, given the fact that he wants to go net zero by next Tuesday and borrow taxpayers' billions in a 1970s-style state-sponsored company to invest in flaky renewables? We saw in the 70s what happens when the government tries to be entrepreneurial. It decimated the motor industry, telecommunications, rail, gas, you name it. Governments can't run companies. Well, actually, they can, but they just run them into the ground. Now, I have voted New Labour in the past. They made huge mistakes, namely the Iraq War and uncontrolled immigration. But they were aspirational, business-friendly and fiscally prudent, and taxes stayed low. So it's never say never that they should win my vote again. I'm like one of the many millions of people in this country and the many people watching this show tonight that makes my mind up on election day. I'm not tribal. As far as I'm concerned, whether it's a woman or a man, may the best candidate win. But right now, Keir Starmer does not get my vote. This is not Tony Blair 2.0. Blair, for example, banned the word socialism from New Labour. He just banned it. And he recently said in an interview that his party must ditch the woke stuff. Well, they can only do that if they ditch Starmer, who is rooted in the right-on groupthink of Islington in North London. Do you think a Labour government would be more robust with illegal migrant crossings, given the fact that Starmer's plan is to make a deal with France? Bon chance with that. And I've got concerns about Starmer's character too, not just his policies. This is the man that campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn to become Prime Minister. And be clear, Jeremy Corbyn in number 10 would have been an economic and national security disaster. So far from being Tony Blair 2.0, Starmer is Jeremy Corbyn light. And whilst I grant you that in many ways the Tories have made an absolute dog's dinner of the country over the last 12 years, it is Starmer whose fingerprints are all over the current crisis. He was leader of no opposition during the pandemic and called for longer, harder lockdowns and more COVID tyranny. He called Freedom Day in July of 2021 reckless. So he owns the economic, societal, human and health damage from that failed experiment as well. His votes could have stopped it. Don't be fooled by the slogans, the snappy catchphrases and all the rest of it. Starmer promises to end the sticking plaster politics. Well, he can stick it as far as I'm concerned. Right now, we are sleepwalking into a Labour government, and it's time to wake up. What's your view? Mark at gbnews.uk. I'll get to your emails very shortly. I can't think of a show on national television or radio that prioritises your emails more than this one. So do get those messages in. Mark at gbnews.uk. What do you think of Starmer? Is he the Prime Minister in waiting? Do Labour deserve a shot at power? Reacting to that big opinion, my fantastic panel of journalist, broadcaster and podcaster Linda Jubilee, top political and social commentator Lizzie Zita, and criminal barrister and former Conservative MP and 90s and noughties TV icon, and let's be honest, 2023 TV icon, Jerry Hayes. Jerry, you've flip-flopped a little bit recently in terms of your support for this Conservative government, and you've been critical at times. What about Starmer? Is he our next Prime Minister?
No, of course he's not. And we've got the weird situation where the mad right want Sunak to fail, to prove the point that Boris Johnson is our great saviour. And you've got the mad left who want Starmer to fail to show that their great buddy, Jeremy Corbyn, is actually going to win. And it's ridiculous, it's nonsense. Everything to play for the Conservative Party. I fought the 1992 election. Everyone said it was going to go down the drain. Kinnock was 28 points ahead in the opinion polls, and I won with a majority of 3,000. It can be done.
However, Lizzie Zita, it looks to be quite an insurmountable lead at the moment. I take Jerry's point about opinion polls. They must be imbibed with a pinch of salt. But Starmer has seemingly rid his party of the ghost of anti-Semitism, and he looks like a Prime Minister in waiting, doesn't he?
Well, he does, but he wouldn't be my choice. Nobody at the moment would be my choice. This is the whole problem. There is no strong leadership at the moment. I'm in a political wilderness. I wouldn't know who to vote for at the next general election. And I listened to his speech, and, you know, people said it was visionary, etc., etc., and it was, I suppose, in a way. But all this constitutional change at a time when the national health is crashing, we've got strikes left, right and centre, there's the cost of living crisis, and he didn't seem to... He was big on ideas, but how exactly would he tackle into all of that stuff that's so important at the moment? And on the other hand, I don't think Rishi Sunak tackled into it enough, because I think that the lunatics are running the asylum. I don't think there is anybody at the moment in a really good position to take this country forward.
I mean, I won't, tolerate, Linda Jubilee, the idea that his latest slogan for power is take back control. That was a term, a catchphrase, a slogan in relation to Brexit. What a nerve he's got deploying that language, given the fact that he tried to reverse Brexit.
Absolutely no idea why he chose that particular phrase. Maybe he was trying to be clever, but it was too clever. I think it went down really, really badly. At the end of the day, his phrase was to use his phraseology just to cut and paste marketing schlick. I mean, that's really not worth it. Even Diane Abbott saw through him, and she said that he was just a load of phrases and he didn't underpin it with any proper policy. And Lizzie's quite right. At the end of the day, I suspect this will come down to someone like you, Mark, the floating voter. Yeah. Someone who actually makes up their mind close to the last minute in the voting booth and actually could go either way. Whereas I think the Labour were, I think, up to 33 points ahead only several weeks ago. I think that lead has diminished, and I think it's not a foregone conclusion that the Labour Party will win. I think they're highly likely to win, and I think leading lights within the Conservative Party now are probably discussing the margin of defeat. And I think that's where we are right now. But it's by no means a foregone conclusion.
Absolutely.
There could be, we've heard all about shy Tories. We know all about those. We know all about people who are going to make up their mind at the last minute. So it's all to play for right now. I think Sakir Karma did... Karma. Oh.
Karma.
Can't get my teeth in tonight. He did a reasonable job. It was less boring than usual. It was more interesting than...
But he was shrieky. He was shrieky. Do you remember that?
And the audio didn't work.
No.
The audio, what happened? I was trying to listen. I thought, there's something wrong with my computer. And then I started, the audio problems. And he was...
Well, do you remember that?
Awful.
Sorry, Mark, do you remember that Doctor Who thing with David Tennant and the Prime Minister had just given the order to shoot down a whole load of aliens, which the Doctor didn't like, and he says, "I will destroy you in 4 words." And what he did, he whispered to an aide, "Doesn't she look tired? Doesn't Keir Starmer look tired?
Well,
Doesn't he look out of
He rolled up
it?"
his sleeves. He pushed up his sleeves and he was trying to, be dynamic.
That's not dynamic.
That's the problem. So much of what he does looks preconceived, taking the knee, using catchphrases, not wearing a jacket. It's OTT. But then again, as you've said, Lizzie, it's the same as Sunak. Many people feel politically homeless. What do you think? Is Keir Starmer the answer to Britain's problems? My brilliant panel are back very shortly. Should the royal family sue Prince Harry? We'll speak to Michael Jackson's former lawyer live from the United States. But next up in the big question, as Santander recruit people who got a third at university, which is almost a fail, do qualifications still matter? Do you know who we've got on that? Not just my panel, including Jerry Hayes, who got a third, but self-made millionaire, Pimlico Plumbers founder, the remarkable, the one, the only Charlie Mullins. He's next.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
There you go, Brian in Stoke-on-Trent. People have got short memories. Look at those characters from the Labour Party on the back benches. Barbara, hi Mark, love the show. Only person fit to lead the country is Nigel Farage. He says it as it is. Neither Starmer nor Rishi have any leadership whatsoever. At least Nigel cares, and many would vote for him. Thank you for that, Barbara. Nigel, of course, back on Monday at 7. Mark says, Carol, love GB News, no Labour government and no for Starmer. Steve says, Mark, what is the point of blue Labour fighting red Labour? It all adds up to the same thing. Can't put a fag paper between either party. Lots of you calling for Reform UK and Richard Tice to fill that gap. Alan says, could Starmer handle a crisis? But when I vote, only one word will ring in my ear after what I've done for my country in both the military and work. And the word in Alan's mind that he won't forget in relation to Labour is scum. That's what he says. No one will ever call me that and expect my backing because of my self-esteem and values. Alan, it's a despicable word, and it's not a word I'd use about anyone, frankly, and you're right to make that point. Derek says to win the next election, all Conservatives need to do is play a clip of the knee-taking by Keir Starmer on every possible opportunity before Election Day. That and Starmer having trouble defining a woman. Derek, thank you for that. Keep those emails coming, Mark at gbnews.uk. It's time now for this. Yes, it's time for the big question in which we tackle a major news story of the day. And the famous high street bank Santander have announced that they're going to accept candidates for employment who have received a third at university. Now, a third is the lowest grade above a pass. They've changed this policy in order to boost the diversity of their team and to give opportunities to a more varied intake from society. So, is this a welcome opportunity for people with other talents or a slap in the face for those that work hard in higher education? Tonight's big question, do qualifications still matter? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome one of the country's most high-profile and best-known entrepreneurs and a self-made man who left school at the age of 15 with no qualifications, but it worked out pretty well. Charlie Mullins, OBE, founder of Pimlico Plumbers. Welcome to GB News.
Hi, Mark. Yes, great to be here. And
great to have you.
I mean, what a mistake they're making, Santander. I mean, why would you put people that are not qualified to actually do that type of job? They're discouraging people from doing what we really need them to be doing, apprenticeships and that type of thing. All they're going to do is some of the people that are less academic, they're going to run up a 50k debt and they're going to get a two-bob job in a bank, which we don't even need any more bankers. I mean, we need skilled workers. We need people that are doing apprenticeships. We need people that can go out and build 300,000 houses. I mean, these bankers can't build houses, so it's a total bad move by Santander. And, you know, I think they're going to totally regret it. Why would you put someone in charge of finances that is not qualified enough to be there? And let's be fair, all the universities are interested in is getting bums on seats.
Well, that's right. And you built your success at Pimlico Plumbers by hiring talented people, hard-working people. And if they did not cut the mustard, they were out. It was quality control. If we go through, Charlie, the grades you can get at university, the top one is a first. Then you've got something called a 2-1, a 2-2 and a third. So a third is basically, it's a D. OK, it's the lowest score you can get without failing. So what it means is if you get a third, you're either thick or lazy. Why would you hire somebody like that?
Well, that's what I just said. I mean, they're undervaluing the job itself. And, of course, you know, I'm not a great lover of these degrees. I think you can get a great living without them and probably a better living, especially if there's a big demand for it, being hands-on. But what they're actually doing is putting people in the job that are not capable for it. It can only lead to problems. I mean, you know, it's like us taking on plumbers that are not qualified or they failed on it. If they failed with us, they don't get a job. And, you know, why would you let losers into a society that, you know, is very, very important?
reflection, Charlie, of the wider culture in our society. Dare I use the woke word? But this idea that all the kids at the school fun run get an award for participating and there are no winners or losers anymore.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, look, we're letting the woke brigade overtake it. We need to stand up. We need to get back to the type of country we are and you know, sort of move around from the woke people. Let the woke people go broke. Let the real people get to work and earn a good living. And you know, let's start creating more and more apprenticeships. Let's get people trained up for jobs that are needed, and they will earn fortunes there. And, you know, if, as you say, you use me as an example, and there's many, many other people like me that have done apprenticeships and been very successful, run their own business. I'm telling you now, these bankers, I mean, they're crooks in suits anyhow, aren't they? So why would you want to encourage that?
Too right, and I'd love to see so much of the investment, the money that goes into higher education geared towards training, skills and apprenticeships rather than I don't know, some kind of degree at the University of Oxford for jam making or media studies or some other such nonsense. Let's bring, can we, Charlie, the panel in as well, because they'd love to contribute to this conversation. We've got Linda Jubilee, Lizzie Zeta and Jerry Hayes. And Jerry, I think an apology is in order because I believe you got a third at university.
I got a glorious third, and I worked hard for that through debauchery and drunkenness, so I deserved it. But of course, I mean, this is all just absolutely ridiculous. The fact of the matter is, apprenticeships are now the key. And there's a lot of newspapers are saying, oh, no, 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 the middle classes are going for it. Hey, if the middle classes think an apprenticeship, doing something proper, giving their kids an opportunity of a job, hey, that's a good thing. So I'm not ashamed.
Jerry Hayes, proof if you needed it that you can't polish a third. Lizzie Zeta.
Oh, that is clever.
I'm here all week. I'm here all weekend. Lizzie Zeta. Lizzie Zeta, is it time to start closing down universities and open up a few training colleges where you can actually learn skills?
Well, that may or may not be true, but I think that Santander, honestly, that made me laugh that they're accepting people who are a third. Have you ever tried to get through to a bank recently? Hours on the phone. We're experiencing really high call volume at the moment. No, you're not. You're all sat at home doing nothing. A third is too high a standard for these people. What do they do? What do they do? I could give you mortgage advice. I could tell you how to run a savings account. I think it's perfectly fine for these people to have a third because they don't do that. They're not high-level bankers, people who work in banks. And the service at the moment, sorry to have a rant, is absolutely appalling. We've gone back about 25 years. Well, I also want to say, my husband used to be a plumber as well. And yes, it's a good industry. He found it quite difficult to get on with the guys because he wanted to be an artist and now he's an artist. But yeah, if people want to be, he is. Someone's laughing
An artist to a plumber.
No, a plumber to an artist.
Lizzie,
the other way around, my darling.
Lizzie, you are so lucky to have been married to a plumber.
I am.
Oh, yeah. Did he?
But my toilets don't work.
Oh,
Nothing in my, you know, that's what they say.
But send you around the bend.
Exactly. You were married to a plumber. Did he do your pipes?
He certainly did, darling.
Now, Lizzie Zeta, I've got to do a shout out for Santander because actually their customer service is brilliant. I think Santander is a great business, so I don't want this to be, you know, an attack on them.
No, not them, but just banks in general.
Right,
at the moment when you're trying to get through on the customer service isn't great.
I do agree. I've had a few horror shows with some unnamed brands, but I've got no personal gripe with Santander, and you could argue, Linda Jubilee, that diversity word has some merit. What they're saying is that you're going to penetrate communities where this kind of great opportunity would not normally happen. You get somebody that performed perhaps not brilliantly at university, they got a third, you get them into Santander, you get them trained up, turns out they've got hidden talents.
I think that's absolutely true, and it does depend on the job that you're aiming for at Santander, because it's not all about finance. There's plenty of marketing people there, there's plenty of customer care people there, there's loads of jobs they could be going for, and actually once you get through to the interview, it's how you perform in the interview that really counts. Now, what I think Santander are doing is they are giving a nod to diversity and inclusion, and that's no bad thing. But the issue is here, I suppose, there are many schools, many parents who watch their children who are benchmarked to within an inch of their lives over 7 years of secondary education in order to get exactly the right grades, to get into exactly the right university. And then when they get there, there's no point in diminishing the importance of that degree. So that's my thought.
Yeah, briefly, Linda, there seems to be a war on merit these days.
Yeah,
Merit's almost a bad thing.
Terrible, absolutely terrible. I've got 3 children. I've watched them all work really, really hard for their qualifications, and they've done very well. And, I applaud that. At the end of the day, there's going to be a race. There's got to be a winner. There's got to be a loser. But even if you get the third, as we see here from the example of Jerry Hayes, it doesn't mean to say you've really lost. You just got to pick yourself up, crack on, and find, as our guest
Linda,
says, Charlie says, something that suits you.
Linda, you are so right, because if it turns out, if you're watching, if you're a thicko dunce, you can just become a Tory MP like Jerry, and you'll have a great career.
And you'll be in good company.
Yeah,
exactly.
you are
Probably
such a bad man,
Charlie, all the way from Dubai, you get the last word, sir.
Okay, why do we want to get less academic students and run up a 50k debt where there may not even be a job for them? I mean, that's just ludicrous. I wouldn't want some half-wit looking after my money in the bank. And I do bank with Santander, and if they put people on that are not qualified, I'll move banks, because it's just not right to do that. And why encourage people into it that are not qualified for that? We're screaming out for apprentices. That's what we need. Bankers don't build 300 houses a year, and that's what we need, skilled people.
Amen to that. Charlie, I wish you a very happy new year and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much for joining us on your trip abroad. Lovely to have your input on that, and your story remains a humbling and deeply impressive one. A true entrepreneurial icon, Charlie Mullins, OBE. Coming up, my Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her story after 10. We've got the papers at 10:30 with full panel reaction. But next, how about this for a bit of a hand grenade? Should the royal family sue Prince Harry? We'll be asking Michael Jackson's former lawyer.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the best part of my show? It's when you get in touch. I love the emails. I don't know a programme on the national radio or television airwaves that prioritises your messages more, so keep them coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. How about this from John in Nuneaton, lovely part of the world. Hi, John. How are you tonight? John says, Mark, if either Starmer or Sunak is the answer, you're asking the wrong question. Sir Keir is an unreconstructed socialist and Fishy Rishi is a social democrat. How about this from Christian? He goes the other way. Christian says, Mark, Labour definitely deserve a shot in power. The Tories have used their stonking majority to give us the highest taxes in 70 years, a broken NHS and record-breaking levels of immigration. Bring on Starmer. New Labour wasn't as bad as current-day Conservatives. And last but not least, this from Stephanie. No to Labour or Conservatives. I will vote for either the Reform Party or the Heritage Party, says Stephanie. I hope everyone will do the same and get rid of the corrupt riffraff we have at the moment. All current MPs should be behind bars for what they did during the pandemic and still continue to do in pushing the gene therapy poison vaccine. If justice is not served, people will not trust any politician ever again. Now, of course, that is Stephanie's opinion. It's very clear from the medical authorities that the vaccine's been tested and it's safe and effective. But Stephanie, you're entitled to your view. No one gets cancelled, not on my watch. Keep those emails coming, mark at gbnews.uk. I'm looking forward to this next story. As the fallout from the forthcoming publication of Prince Harry's book, Spare, in which he shares some of the most intimate details about his life and that of his family, there's a deafening silence from Buckingham Palace, who do not have a right to reply in relation to many excoriating allegations made by the young prince. We've seen celebrities go to court for less, so it begs the question, should the royal family sue the Sussexes for the contents of Harry's book, not to mention the Oprah Winfrey interview, the Netflix series, and God knows what else? To discuss this, I'm delighted to welcome one of the best-known and most respected lawyers in America, having previously represented Michael Jackson, no less. Mark Geragos, welcome to GB News.
Mark.
Good to have you on the show. Do you think that the royal household are deafening in their silence? Ought they to consult their lawyers? Because there are some shocking allegations floating around.
Well, the problem is if they were to bring the lawsuit here in America, they would have an awfully tough time. Given the American libel and slander laws would give some great protection to both Harry and Meghan. But one of the things I've often complained about, the difference between England and America, is you have, I think, a more robust system in place. I've argued for years that and it started with the bringing over across to our shores, kind of the tabloidization of cases. And that's great. And obviously, we're in the midst of one here in America right now. You may not know about it, but the murder of a horrific murder of 4 kids in Idaho. And it is kind of captured, once again, kind of a throwback to the pre-Trump era of the nonstop coverage. But The problem is when you brought that over, you still have in the UK the Contempt of Court Act, which at least you shut down the coverage when there's that tension between the First Amendment here and the Sixth Amendment. I think if it was anybody else, and you've seen it, and I don't need to tell you about it, the UK and France, I think, have more robust and actually probably better laws. They deal with these things in a better way so that people don't feel like they can just publish and let you perish, if so to speak.
Well, definitely. But as you well know, in the United States, sometimes rich celebrities and corporations just sue people to make them uncomfortable or to send a message. Even if they don't win, it can be protracted. And if they've got deep pockets, it's still a worthy endeavour, almost political, if you like. And you just wonder whether if the palace were to use their deep pockets and to pursue some kind of action, it would at least give the Sussexes pause for thought next time they write a book or do a TV series. I mean, Mark, let's look at some of the allegations. They've called the royal family racist, a devastating allegation, unsubstantiated. Meghan Markle said that she got married the day before her wedding. That's a lie. It was disproved and contradicted by the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is the top cleric in this country. The bottom line is that there's certainly a case to answer from this young couple.
Well, you mentioned cases here and that people sue. You may remember the Johnny Depp case. And originally, the first time it went through, it was in your country and he was not successful. Then they picked a jurisdiction here, or he forum shopped a jurisdiction where he would not get what we call here slapped. And it was successful. I can't tell you, I've said in real time, I didn't think it was smart of him because I thought it was going to be kind of mutually assured destruction. I think I was wrong. I think that for him, he didn't really care ultimately at the end of the day about the money. He cared about the vindication, and he did not get it in the UK, and he got it in the US, and arguably in a jurisdiction that had very little connection to what actually happened.
Indeed, but don't you think that the palace, if they were to threaten legal action, it would just rough them up a little bit? A shot across the bows, Mark Garagos.
Well, I'll tell you, they've been on the receiving end with Prince Andrew of quite a few slings and arrows in the last year, and just settled one of those cases out of New York. So I'm not so sure that they want to get mired again in one of these things and set any kind of a precedent. I mean, remember, in that litigation that was going back and forth, they were contending that they couldn't be sued and that the palace couldn't, and that Andrew had various immunities and things of that nature. If you now affirmatively sue or threaten to sue, it undercuts the positions you were taking before as well.
Well, I very rarely disagree with you, Mark Garagos, partly because I don't have as many good lawyers as you do. But I would say in relation to this brazen couple, take them down to Chinatown. But Mark, thank you for your wise input and your expertise in this matter. Catch up again soon. Mark Garagos, who's a legendary Hollywood lawyer representing Michael Jackson, Chris Brown and lots of other big stars. Fascinating conversation. Well, I've been asking you, should the royal family sue Prince Harry? Thousands of responses. It's been a landslide victory as well. 59% say yes, sue the couple, take them to the court for everything they're worth. 41% say no, the people have spoken. My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She's a baby and she was given away. We've got her story after 10, plus the papers at 10:30 with full panel reaction. And in my take at 10, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. And it's not for the faint-hearted, let me tell you. But next, will private healthcare now become the norm? See you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back to the show. Very excited about my Mark Meets guest. It's a woman who was trafficked at birth. She was stolen as a baby. She tells her incredible story. And at 10 o'clock, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. More revelations from that book. My verdict. But reacting to the big stories of the day is my all-star panel. The journalist and broadcaster with a brand new podcast, Linda Dewberley. Leading political and social commentator, Lizzie Zeta. And top criminal barrister, TV star and former Conservative MP, in that order, Jerry Hayes. Now, as we all know, our NHS is being pushed to breaking point at the moment. But might it be possible it's so pushed that it's at the point of no return? According to one expert, there are growing numbers of people turning to private healthcare after providers say they're starting to get inquiries from less affluent postcodes that they've never received before. A record 7.2 million people are currently on NHS waiting lists, while around 400,000 would-be patients have been hoping to see a consultant for over a year. Can you really blame people for putting their health first, whether they can afford it or not? So it begs the question, will private healthcare become the norm? And that's the million-dollar question, Lizzie Zeta, isn't it? Which is, who cares about debating, should we privatise the NHS? People will have gone private by then anyway.
No.
Well, not everybody, because not everybody will be able to afford it. But I do think that the extreme right wing of the Conservative Party are kind of like waiting for it to collapse and then saying, well, it didn't work, we have to go private anyway. So that
Isn't
is
that a conspiracy theory?
No, I don't think it is a conspiracy theory.
It's not money, is it? Look what the Tories have pumped into the NHS.
Well, they put Boris put 34 billion into it. He also put up the salaries by about 5%. I know it was eaten up by inflation, but yes, he did. But it was all swallowed up by inflation and everything. But I just think that, you know, I noticed with my mother, Mark, that those little services that she used to have, like her ears being cleaned and have feet, now, before it was very regular, now it's like once a year.
Yeah.
And along the high street where I live, now you can have all those things done for £50 or, you know, for sort of relatively small amounts of money. Well, not to everybody, I'm not being facetious, but I do see that this privatisation is starting to happen. And I think that there is a design fault within the National Health, because if it was designed today, it would be more based on the Dutch and French sort of system of insurance, because it's unsustainable.
What do you think,
I think the key there is, if it was designed today, we might do it differently. What we've got to bear in mind is that the NHS was set up when people retired at 60 and died at 65.
Yes.
Now, and we've got that problem being compounded by the fact that we've made enormous strides in the treatment of cancer and in the treatment of heart trouble, which has left us with the degenerative diseases of old age. So we've got people living till 95, and that's a really big problem. No matter how much money you throw at the NHS right now, I think you do have to accept that the model is broken. It's not about privatising some of it, it's about finding a fresh way of looking
And it's
at it.
not about, it can't be about money, can it, Linda? With £13,000 per household per year going into the NHS, how much more can we give them? It's upwards now of 200 billion a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's
Well,
the most important thing?
Go on, Charlie.
It's got to be free at the point of delivery, hasn't it?
It does.
When you go there, you must never go back to the
Correct.
1930s where you worry about healthcare.
Well said.
Does my mother or father or son or daughter have to pay? I'm not going to go to the doctor. And there's all sorts of people who are saying, well, charge for the doctor. No, it's wrong. I don't care what model we have, whether it's insurance or whatever it is, as long as it's free, as long as people don't have to worry about healthcare. Look what's happened to dentistry. It's pretty ghastly, isn't it?
It's terrible.
It's appalling.
But I think
a rat race now. Isn't
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you said is absolutely true, because we have double the old people, 85-year-olds have doubled, more than that, and we have less and less young people. One of the answers is more migration, so that we get the younger people who can take care of us as we get older. But I think it's a really big issue. I remember when I was a kid that people would start to die at 60. Oh,
Yeah.
you had a heart attack, or
Didn't have your own teeth?
you know.
And also,
That's true.
No,
and also, Linda,
absolutely.
without finger wagging, you know, this is a problem all of us have got. But you know, public health is worse because our lifestyles aren't great. You know, we're getting fatter and lazier, aren't we?
Yes.
That's true, very, very true. And in fact, there are I remember being on Tonight with Trevor McDonald, a programme on another channel,
Nice
so
little-
we're in another time.
Nice little name drop.
I remember we did one particular story where we went back to the exercise and diets that people had in the 1940s, which you would have assumed would have made them less healthy, did not. They were healthier then because they had
Rationing.
food cooked from scratch, and they were moving around more.
And they weren't having sort of muffins and croissants and snacks.
But this is- and they were
Forced
walking.
rationing.
This
you
is
see, that's
absolutely
something
true.
that you would not agree with at all, because you were forcing people to do that. And that's wrong. You've got to have the freedom of choice to be fat if you want to.
But I think it's
Well, not
all
if you've got to
about
have
being
both hips replaced by the
preventative.
NHS.
I think that we need to think about preventative healthcare.
I
I think
agree with
everything
you.
that you said.
I
I think
agree
we
with
need to think about, you know, diet, exercise. My mother is Italian. She's in excellent health because she eats the kinds of food other people would think, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah,
you
fresh
know.
fish, olive oil, all of
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, oh, just take me to
Omega
the garden.
fatty
I bought some.
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff.
Japan's got an
Tomatoes.
ageing population, but they don't have a health problem that
Oh,
we
they do have tremendous health problems.
They do have health problems. They have different health problems. They don't have an obesity
because
one.
no, they don't, because they eat
The right food.
Well, no, they don't, because they get cancer of the stomach.
Well, that's because they don't have enough fibre,
Too much
but they've
fish.
got enough.
Too much
They've got
fish.
enough fish,
Yeah,
but not
too
enough
much, too
fibre.
much of that sushi. Fascinating conversation. What do you think, Mark at gbnews.uk? I'm very excited because let me tell you that the Jerry Hayes fitness book is coming out in a few weeks' time.
I actually did a fitness video
It's called the
with
Hayes
Heather
Diet.
Mills. I did a fitness video with Heather Mills,
We'll
who has
talk
a
about that.
special leg.
It's called the Hayes Diet. It involves a lot of red wine. My Mark Meets guest was trafficked to birth. She tells her story. But next in my Take at 10, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
It's 10 o'clock and this is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10 in just a moment, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. I'll be talking about his reckless boast about killing 25 terrorists. He's becoming a danger to himself and those around him, and it's a tragedy to behold. You won't want to miss my comments about Prince Harry next. My Mark Meets guest is the extraordinary Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her incredible and inspirational story shortly. And in the news agenda with my panel, are three-way relationships, known as a throuple, the future? What do you think? Do you fancy a throuple? Oh dear, I've got Linda Jubilee, Jerry Hayes and Lizzie Zeta. Have I drawn the short straw? Also, they're already on the couch, exactly. Is binge watching spoiling the TV experience? Is another thing we'll be discussing. Plus tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp. Lots to get through, including my Take at 10 monologue. But first, the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Ambulance workers are planning another strike this month in their ongoing dispute over pay. More than 2,600 members of the Unite Union will walk out on Monday the 23rd across England and Wales. New figures show record numbers of ambulances, over 40%, had to wait more than half an hour to hand over patients to A&E over Christmas. Further revelations have emerged from Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, which is out next week. It includes how he and his brother were talked out of reopening the investigation into the death of their mother, Diana, by so-called powers that be. The Duke of Sussex has angered a senior leader of the Taliban after admitting to killing 25 militants in Afghanistan and calling them pieces on a chessboard. Buckingham Palace has not commented on his claims, but Londoners have shared their views on the book.
The only issue I kind of have is that the reason why I thought they'd left the royal family and moved is because they wanted privacy. But then this is doing the polar opposite of that.
The whole thing's sad. I just feel like it didn't have to happen. But yeah, if it was my family, I would have preferred my brother or sister to call me before making it public. But how much do we really know? Has he spoken to his brother? Like, it's difficult to say, really. I think we also just get our own stories about things.
Ukrainian officials have accused Russia of failing to observe its own ceasefire. The governor of the eastern Luhansk region said attacks hadn't stopped and that within the first 3 hours, Moscow had sent 14 missiles into Ukraine. Kiev had dismissed President Vladimir Putin's suggestion of a truce over the Orthodox Christmas period as propaganda. The US has unveiled its latest £3 billion package of military aid for Ukraine. US President Joe Biden has marked the second anniversary of the deadly attack on the US Capitol in a ceremony at the White House. He awarded presidential medals to 12 officials and police officers for resisting the crowds. A mob of Donald Trump supporters attempted to storm the building in a failed bid to block Congress from certifying the 2020 election. Official census data has for the first time revealed the size of the LGBT+ community in England and Wales. Around 1.5 million people aged 16 and over said they identify as lesbian, gay or bisexual, and 262,000 people said they identify as a gender that's different to their sex at birth. And the world of football has been remembering former Chelsea striker and manager Gianluca Vialli, who's died at the age of 58. Vialli earned 59 caps for Italy and won the Champions League with Juventus before joining Chelsea in 1996. The Italian Football Federation said his death has left an unfillable void, and Chelsea co-owners promised his legacy would be forever written at the club. Vialli had pancreatic cancer. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News now. Let's back to Mark.
Thanks, Bethany. We'll see you in an hour's time. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight, the first one of the year. Shall we have a brilliant 2023 together? Let's do it. Wonderful to have your company. If you're enjoying the show and if you're enjoying the channel, tell your friends, tell your family, and let's change the world together. So, as always on Mark Dolan tonight, big stories, big guests and big opinions in the news agenda with my excellent panel. Are three-way relationships the future? And is binge watching spoiling the television experience? Plus, we've got tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp. You can set your watch to it with full panel reacting to the big stories of the day. Political and social commentator Lizzie Zita, journalist and broadcaster with a brand new podcast Linda Jubilee, and top criminal barrister, TV star and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes. My Mark Meets guest is an amazing lady, Jane Blasio, who was taken and trafficked at birth. She tells her incredible and inspirational story shortly. Lots to get through, including those papers at 10:30. But first, Prince Harry in my take at 10. Prince Harry, the world's least happy millionaire, is like one of those incompetent shooters who's left the catch on his firearm loose, meaning the bullet hits him rather than the target. This poor lad is in a self-destructive spiral, and it's painful to watch. Via a 6-hour Netflix series, podcasts, and now a forthcoming book, Prince Harry has waged war on everyone that loves him, namely his family and the great British public. Don't forget, back in the day, this sunny-faced smasher was arguably the second most popular member of the royal family behind the Queen. We loved Hazza. He was a bit of a legend, wasn't he? A few girlfriends, drunken nights out. He did everything that many of us would do if we found ourselves a member of the royal family. He enjoyed the role, and being the spare, which is now the title of his new book, appeared to suit him. All the trappings of fame and privilege, but none of the responsibility. Not worrying about the burden of becoming monarch. It was the perfect gig. What went wrong? There's a wonderful poem which I studied at A-level called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, in which the sailor is so consumed with hatred and anger that as he looks into the sea, the fish swimming around manifest themselves as monsters, dark sea snakes. Well, this seems to be happening with Harry in every aspect of his life. He hates the world. The British press, which love-bombed him and which he at times courted, are apparently now evil and racist. The family that raised him and the institution into which he was born are arcane, heartless and hostile. The worst revelation by far is his proud boast of killing 25 Taliban. By breaking the military code and showing off, he places himself, his wife and his children and the rest of the royal family at far greater peril, plus other soldiers. He's put a target on his back and on the back of everyone he professes to love. Prince Harry has become a recruiting sergeant for the Taliban, of which they can only dream. The ultimate propaganda tool. And yeah, Harry is a bit of a tool. In his book, we will hear tales of cocaine use and smoking marijuana at Eton. I've got to say, I'll probably be in need of some Class A drugs once I've finished reading his self-indulgent drivel next week. We're told he begged his father not to marry the love of his life, Camilla, for fear that she was an evil stepmother. Really, Harry? Well, dear old Meghan Markle doesn't exactly come across as Mary Bloody Poppins, does she? People in glass houses and all that. He's even addressed rumours about his parenthood and the suggestion that his real biological father is in fact James Hewitt. Is Harry a bastard? You tell me. The abiding narrative of the book is that everything is everyone else's fault, including his disastrous decision to wear a Nazi uniform to a party, an outfit apparently chosen by William and Kate. And the theme of this whole book is what the youngsters call TMI, too much information. Like, for example, the news that he lost his virginity to an older lady referred to as a cougar in a field outside a pub. Our late great Queen must be so proud. Harry is now doing to the country and his own family what he did to that young woman in a bush outside the Rose and Crown. Prince Harry may have boosted his bank balance with the release of this memoir, but he's closed the chapter on his relationship with his family and his country, and it's very sad. And I think now it's time for a bit of tough love from King Charles and his brother William. In the wake of this tell-all bestseller, I think the gloves are off. This spoiled, entitled brat needs to be put in his place. The family should relieve him of his titles, uninvite him from the coronation, and quite literally throw the book at him. Am I too hard on old Hazza? What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk. I'll get to your emails shortly, but reacting to my take at 10 are my fantastic panel of journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, political and social commentator Lizzie Zita, and criminal barrister and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes. Jerry, what do you think? Is it time for Charles and William to throw the book at this boy?
No. Leave it alone. Keep the moral high ground. Don't respond to any of this.
Whilst people lie about you, Jerry.
Say again, I couldn't hear.
Well, whilst people lie about you.
Yes, you've got to do that. You really have. It's like in politics or anything else, you never sue. Unless it's really, really, really serious. But even then, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. He's a troubled young man. It's desperate to see that. Clearly, he misses his mother, but all this dreadful stuff is coming out. And I think the hypocrisy, basically, when he's saying, look, I don't want my family to be intruded upon by the media. And what's he doing? He's doing exactly the same thing against the royal family. I don't think some people may say it's the end of the monarchy as a result. I don't think so. I think this is a book that is explosive, but it's exploded in the face of Harry.
Linda Jubilee, there's the allegation that Prince William struck Harry and he fell onto a dog bowl. Well, in my view, the gloves are now off. What's yours?
I think, to use another phrase, the genie's out of the bottle. At the end of the day, the royal family did encourage a level of, if you like, connection and engagement with the press many years ago, which has simply grown and grown and grown. And Harry's mother, Princess Diana, met several journalists that I know, and she briefed them. So we know that these briefings have been going on, more of them than perhaps we knew about at the time. But at the end of the day, I think that the royal family, the mystique, is slowly being peeled back, and that is a very big problem for the royal family. And this book is by far the most explosive element in that scenario.
That's a searing analysis. What's your view, Lizzie Zita?
Well, I think this is a tale of two cities or two countries. In the UK, we are of the view that he's been really foolish and hypocritical, and we loved Meghan, and we think that, you know, he says that, oh, I was frightened about the protection of my family and Meghan, and then he goes and says that he's killed 25 Afghanis. It's a dreadful thing to say, and now he's put his whole family in danger. And on the other side, in America, the tale of the other city, they believe that Meghan and Harry are absolutely correct, that they are all in the right, that they can do no wrong, etc., etc. So, but it's a very, very sad thing to watch this young man fall into this mire like this. It's absolutely... I mean, if he had told his story without being paid £100 million, it would have been one thing. But to be paid and to trash your family, to me, that's just anathema.
Lizzie Zita, I've got and I'm going to get in trouble with Greg, so quick answers if you can. I've got a mic drop question for the three of you, and take it in turn, starting with you, Lizzie Zita. Is Prince Harry mentally ill?
Ooh, I don't think you should do that.
No.
No, leave it alone.
Is that a case of I won't answer or I don't know?
Because you're not a psychiatrist, you don't know.
What's your view? Jerry,
I think he's troubled.
He's not the mad ramblings.
I think he's troubled. I think he's troubled. Leave it there. But the interesting thing is that his audience in the United States is the woke brigade. He is now admitting to killing 25 Afghans. The woke brigade won't like it at all.
Very well.
Also, it could be cynical. Sorry,
Linda Jubilee, you've got no glass jaw. Do you think that Harry is mentally ill?
I think that he's a troubled individual, and what we see in this book is his truth in all its rawness.
There you go. Well, listen, what I will say is that I do wish the guy well, but he's got to stop attacking everybody, and I think he's got to reach out to his family and build some bridges. And if he does that, he will have my wholehearted support. But what's your view? Mark at gbnews.uk. It's nice to see Jerry Hayes sweat there for a moment. There you go. We've got a lawyer in the building. We'll be fine. After this, we've got the most remarkable story. I'm so looking forward to meeting Jane Blasio. She was taken and trafficked at birth. Her story next.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
The papers in 10 minutes' time, hot off the press. But first, it's time for Mark Meets. Imagine being taken away from your parents at birth and not finding out until later in life. My next guest is Jane Blasio, who shares her experience in an amazing best-selling tell-all book. It's called Taken at Birth, Stolen Babies, Hidden Lies, and My Journey to Finding Home. Prior to its release, Jane appeared in a TLC investigative series called Taken at Birth, where Jane interviewed other victims of the now infamous Hicks Clinic. And with an investigative team, she looked into the mysteries behind the case of Dr. Thomas Hicks, who sold babies illegally from his clinic in the 1950s and 1960s. Jane Blasio joins me now. Hi, Jane.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, and I'm deeply indebted to you for joining us and to share your story on the national television airwaves. How old were you when you were given away?
I was given away within just a few days of birth, and I was not in good condition. My adoptive parents were worried that they wouldn't get back to Ohio, from Georgia to Ohio, which is like a 14-hour drive at that time, without me having some medical issues, if I even survived the drive.
Which is another amazing element to the story, just that journey. Jane, why did your parents and your biological mother give you away?
You know, I don't know why I was given away, but I know that my, I call them adoptive parents, but because it wasn't a legal adoption, it was a transaction. I know that my mother that raised me was just desperate to have a child, and she couldn't have one herself because of medical issues, and she just really wanted one. And my the man that raised me really wanted her. He wanted to give her what she wanted, so that's why they in their desperation turned to Dr. Hicks, who was basically selling babies out of his clinic.
And it goes without saying he was breaking the law doing this?
Well, this was what makes this transaction, what makes it illegal is that there is no buried A file for the adoption. So basically he was taking cash or check for a baby and giving them a birth certificate that didn't have the birth family documented, didn't have a birth family birth certificate. so that if someone needed to go back and find them for medical purposes, for historical purposes, or just because that's their birthright, there was absolutely nothing that was filed or buried that someone could go back and check to see, to check with the birth family.
So for
Plus,
Dr. Hicks, go on. Apologies.
No, that's all right. One of the things that makes this, actually, I think one of the worst things about this is that, I know other Hicks babies and other people that I've helped in the past with their adoption searches that needed medical information. And because this was cut off and was done illegally, they had absolutely no way to get their medical information that in some circumstances was life-threatening.
So for Dr. Thomas Hicks, can we just assume this was a business for him, that he was unscrupulous here? He wasn't exactly offering a public service, he was profiteering. Is that fair to say?
I will go in with that he was a businessman. And, I've said to many people over the years, because they ask me all the time, what do you think of Dr. Hicks? And I have always said pretty much the same thing. And that is that I think that if he were alive today, that he and I would be sitting down, we would be talking, maybe over a beer, and I would be asking him the hard questions and he would be answering, because I don't think that he thought he did anything wrong. So it's really, everyone's experience with Dr. Hicks, was different. It was personal, but I don't know. It's just really hard to sum up who Dr. Hicks was, because he had so many different, he was a very complicated man. But yes, he was a businessman. He was a very good businessman. He was probably one of...
Right. Notwithstanding his ethics or otherwise, one big problem was bureaucratic and logistical, and they didn't have the paperwork. It made it harder for you to work out your story. So how old were you when you discovered that you'd been handed away at birth? How old were you, and what were the emotions when you found out?
Well, I was very young, and I detail all of this in my book. But at 6 years old, my parents brought us, my sister and I, because my sister was bought from the Hicks Clinic as well. She and I weren't related DNA-wise, but we were bought from the same place and raised together. They brought us in and told us what adoption was, because kids on the playground had said to my sister and had called us black market babies. And so, of course, we didn't know what adoption was. We had never had any experience with that, and we were both very young. But we also really didn't know what black market babies were. And for kids to be calling us that, I think it impacted my sister, Michelle, more because she was 10. I just wanted to get out of the uncomfortableness of the moment and go out and play. But my sister was my sister was standing there just bawling. There was nothing, that she just totally didn't understand it. And as my parents were trying to explain it, how do you explain what a black market baby is to a 6 and a 10-year-old?
Do you judge your step-parents for having bought you? I know that they were good parents. You don't bear them any ill will, but do you judge them for that decision? And was it the wrong thing to do on their part?
Well, like you said, I love them. I don't judge them. There's no animosity there. But when you love something and you're desperate and you want to have a baby, you still have responsibilities. And I feel a lot of disappointment that information wasn't given to me and that I had to spend my entire life trying to find it. And it was my birthright, my medical information. That's my right to have. My historical, who my family was, that's my right. That's everybody's right. So, yeah, it was a bit disappointing. And it was, we'll just say, I'm just going to tell it the way I feel, and that is that it was wrong. And it shouldn't have been done the way that it was. They had a responsibility to go a step further and get my information, and they did it.
Jane, what have you since discovered about your birth parents, if anything?
Well, it's, like I said, it's detailed in the book because this is such a complicated
and you
story.
have to, my viewers have got to read the book, because I've been looking through highlights and it's extraordinary stuff. It's more extraordinary than any movie. But I mean, do you want, without giving the story away, do you want to hand over any clues as to what you found out?
Well, I will tell you that, God knows what he's doing. And he did connect me with both sides of my birth family, and I absolutely love them. And I think that it's just been a fabulous journey. It's had its ups and downs, and there's been a lot of tears, a lot of heartbreak, but there's also been just a really great end to this chapter in my life, and I'm very thankful for it. So, but you know, I want to say,
go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what do you want to say? That's what I care about.
What I want to say is that my story is not different than anybody else's story. And I was one of 200 plus, we're projecting 200 plus other babies that were sold to the Akron, Ohio area. My story is not any different than anybody else's. Nobody likes to be lied to. Nobody likes to be told that they can't have what is their right, who they are. No one likes to have things stolen from them. And so I'm no different than anyone else. But I will tell anyone, and they ask me any suggestions or recommendations, and I learned very early on that I don't like being told no. And I think that if you can just wrap your head around the tenacity and getting the answers to any questions you have in life, then you'll be good. And I think that's how my story ends, is that I embraced that, not accepting no, and just going for it and trying to get all of my answers.
Jane, you're an amazing lady, and congratulations on what you've achieved in your journey. Thank you for telling us your amazing story. I would urge my viewers to download via Kindle or purchase a copy of Taken at Birth by Jane Blasio. It's out now. And there you go. What a story. How do you follow that? Well, we've got the papers hot off the press next. See you in 2.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is exactly 10:30, so let's have a look at tomorrow's papers. As always, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we bring you the front pages. Let's start with the Daily Mail. And it is the only story in town. It was the topic of my Take at 10 monologue, which you can now catch on Twitter at GB News. Our brilliant digital team have put that into a video. Do you agree or disagree? Mark at gbnews.uk. Here's what the Mail are saying. Harry faces global fury over Taliban kill claims. Veterans accuse him of putting his own safety at risk, as well as that of royals and ex-comrades. Exactly the point made in my big opinion monologue. Also in the Daily Mail, I don't normally feature giveaways or competitions, but it's a diet book and it is January. Lose a stone in 4 weeks. Dr. Michael Mosley's new Fast 800 keto diet. And let me tell you, in my opinion, it works. We'll discuss the keto diet with my panel. And why do you think that is? Proof.
That is no accident.
Proof is in the pudding. But listen, we'll debate diets shortly. Do diets work? The Times newspaper, the model standing up to the fashion industry, my fight against size zero. And also, war hero takes aim at Harry over kill claims. Colonel condemns talk of 25 Taliban deaths. That many in the military think that he hasn't just endangered his own family, but fellow veterans. The Guardian next. Revealed Abramovich's trusts transferred before sanctions. Files raise questions about whether the famous Russian oligarch and former owner of Chelsea transferred his fortune to his children in order to evade justice. Also, Harry has badly let the side down. We don't do notches on the rifle butt. That's Colonel Tim Collins, disparaging about Prince Harry's decision to go public with having killed 25 Afghanis, 25 Taliban soldiers. The Daily Telegraph now, and a different angle on the Harry story. Harry's ambushes harmed the Queen's health. Monarch was affected in her final months by Duke's attacks on family, say sources. Also, King didn't want Meghan to be another Diana. Teachers plan to cause maximum disruption with strikes is the other story. And give over 50s work from home rights, say Labour. Also, latest rate cuts herald mortgage price war. Good news for homeowners, perhaps. So there you go. The Sun newspaper now. Exclusive, Harry's swift exit. Captain Wales and the missed drugs test. Prince Harry was allowed to leave his Apache helicopter base after it was put in lockdown when random drug tests arrived. It was secured by armed guards in May 2011, but as the team arrived unannounced, Harry absconded. He was granted special permission to quit RAF Wattisham in Suffolk. How convenient. The Independent now. Why would I put myself through this? Ellie Harrison talks to James Norton about his deeply dark character roles in Happy Valley and A Little Life. And also Sunak holds crunch talks to solve health crisis. Rishi Sunak will have emergency talks with health leaders tomorrow in a bid to resolve the crisis engulfing the NHS. More than a quarter of ambulance patients waited more than an hour for A&E admittance last week as hospitals face one of the hardest winters in decades. Let's go to the I newspaper now, and British national security fears after Chinese spyware found in government car in the UK. And where should we go next, Sebastian? What do you fancy, FT Weekend or the Daily Star? Wait a minute, Sebastian, the FT Weekend is a bit more intellectual, isn't it? Why are you pushing so hard for the Star? All right, can I put it on record that I'd like to do the FT, which is full of compelling economic and political stories, but director Sebastian wants the Star. It's his decision.
And he's right. He's right.
Because it's hilarious.
It's brilliant.
Sebastian, if you want to dumb the show down...
No, let us do that.
Victory is sweet.
Come on. Look,
Sunak.
This is the Harry story.
Oh, no,
I
listen.
nearly lost the crown jewels. Bashful Duke reveals frostbite, Todger, trauma. What a fantastic headline.
Well, we're going to come to that very shortly. A quick word on the FT Weekend. I believe that director Sebastian has gone to the pub. So we've lost him. Sunak invites union leaders to talks, and also Putin's stunt, Kyiv spurns ceasefire call. There you go. No talk of a détente between Russia and Ukraine at this moment. And last but not least, my good friend Sebastian gets his own way. It is the Daily Star. We love the Star. It's always great fun. Free cutout. It's not my fault mask. Prince Harry there. Have you been a bit of a bell end but don't want to take responsibility? No bother. Just wear this classy cut out and keep face covering and blame everyone else instead. Royal bombshell, as lovely Jerry Hayes just pointed out. I nearly lost my crown jewels. An intensely private Duke has revealed he got frostbite on his old boy during a charity trek to the North Pole. Ouch, say the Daily Star. Let's get reaction now from three brilliant people. We've got Lissy Zita, top journalist and broadcaster. We've got Linda Jubilee, a true icon of British journalism, of Fleet Street, and, by the way, the star now of a brand new podcast, and it's called... What's it called, Linda?
Common Sense Politics.
There you go, Common Sense Politics, and it's brilliant. Listen, I've caught 2 episodes and I've downloaded 2 more. So Common Sense Politics, excellent political analysis, as you've witnessed on the show tonight. The opposite from Jerry Hayes, just the usual bunkum. But we love him. We love him. Listen, let's go straight to you, Jerry, if I may. And this is perhaps for many the most egregious aspect of these revelations, the proud boast that Harry killed 25 Taliban. Apparently this is against the code, the unspoken rule.
Well, of course you don't do it. Of course you don't do it. Anyone who's been in the military service doesn't say, let alone boast, that they've killed anyone at all. Because it's nothing to be proud of. It's your job, it happens. You don't do it. He's put the royal family at risk, he's put himself at risk, he's put his colleagues at risk, and he just looks like an opportunist.
And can I just say one more quick thing? That I work these days at fairly frequent intervals with Afghan refugees. There are Afghans remaining in tremendous peril in Afghanistan who have worked for the British Army and worked for British charities, and this will not help them either.
No.
I mean,
It's very serious.
It's a profound misjudgment, isn't it? Because we can debate till the cows come home whether he should slag off his brother and his dad.
Yeah.
But
this
that's
one...
human right.
Yeah.
This, Linda, looks like he's put his foot in it. And he's lost... You know, the one great thing about Harry was his war record. And now even that has been tarnished.
Yeah.
Well, he just doesn't know when to keep quiet. Honestly, it's ridiculous. He should have just that's sort of a sacred part of his life that affects a lot of people, that he should never have gone there with. It's really dangerous and so disrespectful.
Well, you've worked in publishing a long time. He's trying to deliver some bang for his buck, isn't he?
Yes,
he's
he
trying
is.
to give the publishers a bit of red meat.
He is. It's trying to be... It's sensationalisation, isn't it?
It most certainly is. And let's have another look at a really, really deeply concerning aspect. Yeah, please.
Can we talk about the model standing up to the fashion industry? Because I used to work in fashion.
We'll come to that. Can I just get a quick line from you on the Daily Telegraph and Harry ambushes harmed Queen's health? I mean, this would be a very damaging revelation, wouldn't it, Lizzie Zita?
It's an old story.
Well,
the idea that our great
listen,
Queen, who we spent weeks mourning the passing of, the idea that this kept her awake at night, she knew the book was coming. Another shocker from Harry.
Well, it's awful. It's grandma, you know. It's just... He's always talking about how much he loves his family, but what about his grandma? His grandfather had just passed away, knowing that all of this was going down, and it's horrendous. He should have at least kept really quiet until she passed away, to protect her. How often do we... There's loads of stuff I would never tell an elder relative to protect them, because they get nervous, don't you think, guys?
You can feel tremendous sympathy for him, and actually I do. We haven't read the book yet, but I do intend reading it as quickly as I can. You can sense the raw pain coming through this, but that doesn't make him un-narcissistic. It doesn't make him into some kind of hero. It makes him into a flawed individual that hasn't got his finger on the edit button at all. And that's a problem.
He spent all of his life rightly grieving his mother, and grieving his mother because of the intrusion of the press. And what's he doing now? intruding on people's private lives.
What is sad, Jerry, is that he doesn't seem to have anyone looking out for him, protecting him.
No, I think that's true. Yeah.
Someone to step
I think that's
say,
true.
shut up.
That would be his wife. You think
Good luck with
that
that,
would be
Lizzie
his
Zeta.
wife.
Have you been drinking again?
I intend to after the show.
Have you been on Jerry's
I
hooch?
intend to after the show, definitely.
We'd all like a bit of Jerry's hooch right now.
You know, I don't think anyone... I read the Robert Lacey book as well about the two brothers, and that really sets the scene. I thought that would be a significant book because Robert Lacey's a very significant writer, but he almost sets up the whole premise about the heir and the spare. And when you read that book, you get a sense of the fact that I don't think Harry was supported enough from the moment of Diana's death right the way through his teenage years. I don't think that's... That he was supported in those years.
But we don't know.
Well,
we don't.
Well, yeah, I think we do.
Fend for himself
I think we do.
Fend for himself.
I think so.
But yes, I think that's probably true. But, you know, boo-hoo. I feel, with all his millions, how much did he inherit?
Apparently, according to my friend Eve Pollard, 20 million from his mum and about another 12 from the Queen Mother.
Well, it's not a shabby amount of money, is it? I'd be like, woo, and off to the Bahamas. You know, these people have absolute privilege. Yes, I'm sure that he did suffer. I'm sorry that he lost his mum. It's awful. But terrible things happen. Look at the people in Afghanistan.
Oh, I know.
It's not all the people today in the Ukraine. There are far worse stories.
But just because
there.
other people are worse off doesn't negate the fact that he should have been given more support. There was no point in putting a 12-year-old boy behind the coffin of Diana on that march.
No, of course
that was
not.
barbaric.
Well, there's another way of looking at it, and it's the grieving process. So
No.
Yeah, I didn't like it, and it was horrible as far as I could see, but it may have been part of the grieving process. Maybe that's what Prince Philip wanted.
Who could blame this lad for being angry, if you think about it?
He is angry.
But there's anger and anger, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
How long does the anger last for?
It can last a lifetime.
How do you hurt the people who love you?
Yeah.
I think
and they do love him.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
terrible.
anger can last a lifetime. I think that's the truth.
A lifetime. And what's sad is it's very self-destructive. Well, look, very, very sad. We're going to come back to that. We're also going to get through some other really big stories. Are three-way relationships the future?
No! I think
Sort of
that is so selfish.
Lizzie is not happy about that.
No, I'm not.
Also, is binge watching spoiling the television experience? And we're going to get to those two other big stories. The keto diet, does it work? And the model standing up to the fashion industry, something that Lizzie's very keen to talk about, as am I. So many big stories to get through. Don't go anywhere. See you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere. Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel. Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful. Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Lots to get through, and reacting to tomorrow's papers, my wonderful panel. We've got journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, host of the Commons Sense Politics podcast. Do check it out. Political and social commentator Lizzie Zeta, and criminal barrister and former Conservative MP and TV legend Jerry Hayes. Let's have a look now at The Express. Well done, team, for getting a copy of The Express. Always a good read. In fact, they regularly do write-ups about this show. Very, very honoured when they do. Perhaps they'll grab one of those monologues tonight. The Express lead with King. All Harry has to do is call me. Back to me, Sebastian. And all I'd say is, here's hoping that's exactly what he does. Now, following the announcement of former boxing pro David Hayes sharing the news that he's in a throuple with Saturday singer Una Healy and a model.
Who are these people?
I know.
Who are these people?
They're very happy
Dear
people.
me.
It begs the question.
Well, I know, but I mean, who are they?
Are two-way relationships old hats? And are thruples, which is three people in a relationship, the way forward? Let's ask Linda Jubilee. How many in your marriage?
No one. I'm not married. And actually, I find that very peaceful. I've had a very harmonious life because of it. And I don't think that this is the way forward at all, though. Call me old-fashioned, but I think two's company, three's a crowd.
See, I assumed you were married because I assumed someone would have snapped you up like that.
Oh, you're so kind.
But you've chosen the opposite of a throuple.
Yeah,
You've gone for a single.
I think it's I have a very calm life now, very productive, very calm life. I'm still very friendly with my ex.
Yeah.
So to that extent, that's a very sort of modern way to view things, I think. But I think that trouble can only come from a throuple.
You think so? I mean, I just wonder, Jerry, whether it's a little bit like...
Don't look at me.
I know, I can't help
You
it.
had that look in your eye.
Well, he doesn't even know the characters who are in
I don't know who these people are.
I just wonder, in terms of relationships, Jerry, it could be a bit like your famous sock drawer, OK? You wake up in the morning and you open the sock drawer, and should we go stripy today? Should we go red? Should we go pink? Wouldn't you like to have that with members of...
I've got pizzas.
With lovers?
I've got
pizzas.
you
got pizza socks?
Pizza, yes.
Oh, they look delicious.
From Primark.
My mouth is watering. But isn't variety the spice of life?
Yes.
What about that?
Yes.
What about three people? Because it never gets boring, Jezza.
Well, of course it gets boring. I mean, look, the best place to get a threesome is a Tory party conference. But, I mean, not that I know, but I've been told.
Is there anything
only when I was a journalist I discovered all these sorts of things.
What happens if you wind up with Jacob Rees-Mogg and Nadeem Zahawi?
Oh, dear.
Gosh, no. Or
that's what I call
Or
big
Mad
models.
Nad. Who's that woman? I can't remember.
Nadine Dorries.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
She's a very glamorous lady.
Or Anne Widdecombe. Something of the fright.
I love Anne Widdecombe.
To me, Anne is an absolute goddess.
I know.
She is.
But the thing is, like, in my house, there are loads of lovers in my house. Full to the brim.
Oh.
Hundreds of these gorgeous guys.
Let's all go to Ely.
Oh, yes,
Blimey.
absolutely. It's all happening there. Tons of lovers. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, I find it difficult dealing with himself at home, one, let alone a two. It's just, I don't know.
So are you married or
yes,
is
I am.
Your partner
Yes,
married?
I
So-
am.
And you think one's enough? One's plenty?
Yes.
But whenever you see all these celebrity throuples, and there are one or two these
And they all
days,
break up.
No, and it's always a man and two women. It's never a woman and two men. Have you noticed
you've been
that?
mixing
Oh,
darling,
yeah. Just check the internet, darling.
I have friends who don't believe in monogamy. They think it's outdated. They think it's patriarchal.
Do you mind giving me their number, please? I'll ask you for a friend.
Mrs. Dolan first.
Exactly. All it is research for the show.
Yeah,
It's desperately sad, actually. It's desperately sad.
You think
isn't it?
so?
Of course it is.
I think-
Because someone's going to get jealous. I mean, I've been married for 44 years this year. Actually, it's same lady. And I love her more now than when I first met her, actually.
Well, she is a lucky lady and you are a bit of a legend.
that.
But you never know what she gets up to when he's on telly,
Yeah,
is he?
exactly.
Well, that's the point.
Exactly.
Or when he's
I'll give
in
her a
court.
ring.
Yeah.
And also, I think that sometimes, dare I be cynical and say, it's the new year, what can we do to generate a little bit of
Oh, a bit of spark.
Instagram,
That's
the
it.
spark. No, it's not even about the spark, it's about the publicity.
Daily
think
Mail,
so.
sex
It's like-
diet.
I know, that's it.
You were very
That's
keen.
it.
You were keen to talk about the model standing up
Yes.
to the fashion industry. Now, it's a
Yes.
very stunning lady, and she's a plus size. So, her fight against size 0. What do we think about that?
Well, I know for a fact, in the model industry, the models are told to, not so much now, but when I was working for certain, and up until extremely recently, down to their bones. A size 10 is too big. You have to be freakishly tiny. It leads to all kinds of eating disorders. It leads to very few girls are naturally... You do get some of them, and they eat like horses, and they stay slim, like your shape.
Yeah.
And
Well,
your
I mean,
keto.
I'm not going to lie. I did the keto diets, which is
Okay.
featured in the Mail today, Dr. Michael Mosley.
Yeah.
And basically the idea is that insulin is the hormone that decides what happens to fat, right? And when insulin's low, you burn fat. When it's high, then you store it, and carbohydrates raise insulin. So low carb, keto equals... But as Greg said in my ear, always check with your GP before you change your lifestyle.
absolutely
But the keto diet last year was the most Googled health idea.
And how much
because
did
it
you lose?
actually works.
But it
Well, I
it
lost
doesn't-
3 stone on it.
But it's dangerous to continue to do it over a very, very long period of time.
Yeah, maybe then
It
you go
is.
balance. Maybe you go balance once you've shed the pounds.
yeah.
But you've always been skinny.
Well, you've not seen me naked, Jerry, at least
No, but
not
that's
recently.
Well, not-
that's because you
not
have
until
so
last
many-
night.
That's because you have. That's because you have so many lovers at home.
I'm exhausted. I've been drained. But what do we think about this plus size? Because some people, that was definitely TMI. I mean, what do we think, Jerry, about this idea? I mean, what about this, which is why can't models be thin? Surely they're supposed to be perfect, unlike the rest of us.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Because when you have a star on the front page of a newspaper, they've been airbrushed. They don't have the chins.
But why is that a bad thing?
Because it's fake.
And because
it
it has
gives
such
the
a
wrong
bad
impression to young men.
bad- Yeah, but and you bad can- for young girls.
Well, and
yes,
bad
of
for
course.
young
stop
girls.
And young men,
designers.
don't forget young men. Young men have got all sorts of suicide problems.
Fair point.
But
Really good point.
exactly. But you can't stop designers wanting to put their clothes on the best bodies. That's a fact.
Yeah, but it's
It
not
is, but
real.
also, the
Well,
sample
they don't care.
sizes are tiny.
There you go.
They
Well,
are
look, I tell you
small
what, the
size
conversation has been a big one tonight. It's been XXL. Thanks to my incredible panel. Most importantly, to you for your company at home. Headliners is next, and I'll see you tomorrow at 8 for the People's Hour. See you then.
Good evening. Many of us have had a dry Friday, but the first weekend of the year will be dominated by showers. Lots of showers, often heavy, coming through on a fairly gusty wind, and it'll start to turn a little cooler as well. Pretty mild tonight, but we're kind of between weather systems, or have been through the day, which is why most of us have been dry. But these weather fronts now edging in from the west are bringing wet conditions. Some quite heavy rain moving across Northern Ireland into Scotland, and particularly for South Wales and South West England. That heavy rain through the early hours could cause a few problems, so we do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Much of eastern England will stay dry overnight, and Northern Ireland will turn dry after midnight. Temperatures actually rising in many places through the night. We start the weekend in double digits. We also start with a fair bit of rain around. Still some heavy rain for Wales and southwest England, especially first thing. That rain will move eastwards, so eventually turning up across East Anglia and the southeast during the morning, and then head out into the North Sea. It may linger across the easternmost parts of England and Scotland until around dusk. It'll be followed by drier, brighter weather for a time, and then the showers get going. Lots of heavy showers zipping through on that gusty wind come the afternoon. Temperatures actually dropping a little through the afternoon as well, so feeling cooler than it has done, especially with the wind, and especially if you get caught in a downpour, of which there will be plenty more to come through Saturday evening. A showery night. It gets very windy once more in the north of Scotland. And that leads into a blustery, gusty day on Sunday with further heavy showers to come, particularly for Wales and southern England. Could be quite a wet day for parts of the southeast.